Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time again. It's time for the J. Craig Podcast. Playing on headphones near you.
Jason, what's going on?
Hey, Craig, what's happening, man? Welcome back.
Not a lot. Matt, how are you?
I'm doing wonderful.
Hey,
Excellent.
everybody, welcome back to the J. Craig. We have a special guest today, Mr. Matt Busch.
Oh, what's special guest?
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
Man, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
How are you, man?
You're one
I'm
of
great.
Yeah, you're one of 3 guests we've had over the past year.
Yeah,
Awesome.
that's right.
And
So
special
welcome
at
to the show.
that. Wow.
Hey, you're
Exactly.
special with that shirt on, man. You've got to be special with that
Right?
shirt, right?
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming to the show. We appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thanks
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
Thanks
we're
for taking
back
the
here
time
again
out.
at Next Wave Media Lab here in Troy, Michigan. So thanks for Steve for letting us come in again, wherever you are, Mr. Steve.
Thank you,
So-
Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
That's right. So, Matt, now that you're on the show, tell us a little about yourself. Who are you and why the hell are you here?
Well, most people know me as an illustrator, and I primarily work with Hollywood properties. Star Wars, Lucasfilm is my biggest client, so
All right.
it's most of the work people are familiar with is Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Lord of the Rings, comic books, all kinds of stuff. But the big thing that I'm working on now is writing and directing my own movie called Aladdin 3477.
That's right.
And I have a-
Congratulations.
Thank
All right.
you, thank you. I have a background. When I lived in LA, I kind of got my start working in movies, doing storyboards and concept art for a number of films. So it's all kind of coming around full circle and
Nice.
having fun with it and seeing where it goes. But not giving up my day job anytime soon.
Which,
so
right on. How long were you in
um,
LA for?
About 8 years.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Right on. And you came back to Michigan, of all
I-
places to come
what
back
was I,
to.
what was I thinking?
What were you
No.
thinking? Why did you come back?
It's a good question. You know, an interesting thing happened when I moved out there. This is before like the internet or anything like that. So when I moved out there, the only way that you could work on movies or really work on anything Hollywood-ish was to be out there.
Be out there, right?
And then the funny thing that kind of happened during that 8 years in the 90s, that's when people started getting email addresses and people were using fax machines and FedEx and stuff. And more, I was never leaving my apartment. So even working on these movies where normally I would go to the set and I would get to work with the director, it got to a point where they would just fax me the script and they'd say, no, just email the storyboards over. And I was never leaving.
Right.
Right,
So
right.
why pay
What-
to live out there when you could, right?
Right. So that was kind of the initial
Interesting.
thing, and then I think anyone who lives in LA, especially when they come from somewhere else like the Midwest, there's always this love-hate relationship where you're in a place that's very creative, and it just feels awesome. It's very inspiring being out there,
Absolutely.
but also people are very materialistic out there.
Oh, you don't
very-
say.
Yeah, right. So, so being from the Midwest, you know, we just have we have this sense of honor and family and stuff that you just I don't want to say it doesn't exist out there, but it's very hard to find. We're out here. This is how we live, you know.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
Yeah.
Did you ever find yourself gravitating more to people who weren't from LA? Because there's a lot of transpots there.
yeah,
People are from all
absolutely.
over.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, especially
Transplant
when you
heaven
run
over
into
there,
someone
yeah.
from Michigan, they,
Yeah.
they flip out. So,
Right.
yeah.
So we've all actually lived in LA at some point.
Oh really? Okay.
Yeah, I moved out there
Awesome.
for 6 months as a temporary, try to get into that.
Yeah,
like you were
yeah.
talking about, right? I
Okay.
did that myself just to get
Yeah.
out there and get that experience, come back, bring it here. As
Awesome.
soon as I came back, Mr. Governor Schneider killed the incentive, and then
right,
a
the
little less came
incentives and
through.
stuff. Sure.
Craig was out there, and he worked on movies like, dude, he was in Air
Yeah,
Force
I was
One.
out there in 95 and 96, yeah.
Okay, I was
Yeah.
out there during that time too.
Oh, right on. I was
Awesome.
going to ask you what time frame you were there.
Yeah, 93 through like 99 or something like that.
So you kind of went out
Yeah.
there right after college then. Did you college here and then
I
go
was
out there? or where'd you
I
go?
did college here, and then I also did college there. I went to Art Center.
Oh, right
and
on.
then upon graduating there, just kind of did my thing. I had agents and stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
then, but then just wanted to kind of do my own thing. And
That's awesome.
for the plan, it just made sense to come back and do it here.
Right.
I have a tattoo actually on the side of my arm that says, what does it say? Big fish, little pond, as opposed to little fish, big pond.
There
you
which is
go.
what I
It's a
was
good
out
way to
there.
look at
yeah,
it.
yeah, that's actually, that's right. It's a nice little,
So, did you
Full-
do
full
the
circle.
whole like move out there without any contacts and live the hard life as you
I did. I
Affected
didn't.
the
I
craft
didn't have a
for a
car
break.
for the first 5 years that I lived out there. I didn't even have a car.
Uh-huh.
I moved out there with two friends that I was living with, but in terms of knowing one in Los Angeles, didn't know anybody.
Right.
Right.
That's the hard part. When I went out there, I knew a couple people who lived out there just from other people, right? Like, okay, my cousin lives out there. I'll introduce you to him.
Yeah.
And so that became at least a source of communication, right? Where I could actually go, hey, what are you guys doing tonight? Because I'm like sitting around doing nothing because I know nobody.
Yeah.
And so it was so different once you find that one group of people and they were from Michigan.
Yeah.
You get that little concentrated circle there, and then it's hard to branch off sometimes because
You form your tribe.
Right.
Everybody gravitates to a tribe.
But I felt, LA. I was at a certain point. I was like, I can't take any more of. I was there for like 6 months.
It's funny. I always wonder had I been born 20 years later or even 10 years later, what my experience would have been like. Because again, during that, and I don't know what time you were out there, but when you were out there, again, you couldn't just go on Facebook and see, are there Facebook groups for people like me that are from the Midwest that have recently moved to, now it would be so easy to just pull out your phone and ask Siri questions about where to go or what to do. But back then, if you wanted to research something, the library didn't really have the answers you were looking for.
It's a great point, because I'd be on a shoot, and in between the breaks, I'd be running to a payphone to call into the service I was using for the next day's work. Whereas now I just
You grab your phone and
punch
see
in
if you got
whatever
email.
app they gave me to go to the next job the next day. But I'd run off, and punch in, and because you wanted to get a job scheduled before 3 o'clock that day, and then you could hear them like, call into the set. You'd hang up and you'd run back.
What's a payphone?
Yeah, exactly. And there was that period of time where I was so broke. I probably told you this story. I had no money, and I needed the call for the next job. So we're in the stadium, and I went and I broke the phone and got all the change out of it. So
No kidding.
Yeah,
No, I did not hear that one.
Pocketed all of it. I've got all kinds of Craig broke in LA
I
stories.
like those stories.
And then
the dark, seedy Craig.
I had this giant bag of quarters, and I'd use those all day long. I used them for a couple days actually. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
So
Okay, so
it's
being
definitely a make it or break it type town.
it absolutely
Definitely
is,
is,
and I
yeah.
came out. I had a different objective. I knew it was gonna be temporary. Like, my Tina kind of kicked me out of there. She's like, go out there, see what you can do, bring it back. And if she would have came out with me, I think we still probably would have been there, because I was getting some really good connections with USC film students doing their thesis.
Oh yeah.
I worked on a lot of amazing productions coming from Michigan, making your own little small whatever you can make out of it,
Right.
and then going there and seeing all of their abilities with everything they had at their disposal.
Yeah.
It was like, wow, this is really filmmaking, right? And
Yeah.
then I came back here, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm back in Michigan now.
So do you feel that the experiences you had just working with the production companies was enough of a proving ground, and you could have the confidence to I can make my own movie, like I can do this? Like, how did that all come about?
Yeah, it was at the time that I left. There were so many different things that I was doing, and that there's so many things I was doing. It wasn't just one thing. It wasn't just that I wanted to make movies. I also wanted to draw comic books. I wanted to do a lot of the things that I was still doing, but it just didn't make sense to spend Los Angeles money living out there when my paychecks were a lot of my paychecks. Lucasfilm isn't even in Los Angeles, so a lot of my biggest paychecks weren't even coming from Los Angeles. It just didn't make sense to be out there. So long term, I wanted to make movies, but I still wanted to work on movies. I wanted to write. There's so many different things I wanted to do. It just didn't make sense at that point to stay out there.
Yeah.
But I still go out there all the time on business, and I actually love it a lot more now.
That you visit.
Visiting and just going
Isn't
to
it
fun
amazing how that
places and
changes?
stuff.
I have that same relationship with Michigan. I come here and I visit for a week, and then I've had enough, and then I go home.
So
Right.
man, I don't know. I
Exactly.
don't know if you know that he lives in Costa Rica.
Yeah, I think I read that last night. That's
Oh,
crazy.
okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I love it down there. Yeah, it's great.
Awesome.
So he comes in town for special occasions sometimes, or he's working actually, but he comes in town and then we get a chance to sit down and face to face. A lot of our podcasts are Skype because he's in one place, I'm in the other. But it's great when we're able to be here, right in the face to face.
A lot of the better
everything.
ones when we're actually together.
Oh yeah.
We drink a lot more when we're together too.
Yeah, and you can
Probably
notice everybody who's
probably feeds into
you
it.
can realize everyone who's watching us on YouTube now. We don't have any booze today. We decided it was a little too early to bring out the bourbon. So
Okay.
They didn't want to be in bed by 5, so it wasn't
Okay,
really part of the plan.
So since you were in LA, and I know you worked with Lucasfilm, tell me a little bit about your experience with George Lucas and Lucasfilm.
Okay. Well, in 1994 is when I first started doing official Star Wars work. So primarily in the beginning, I was doing a lot of the illustrations for the role-playing games.
Oh, right on.
And that kind of crisscrossed into doing book covers for Bantam Books and working on the Star Wars Insider magazine, Star Wars Kids magazine.
I used to buy the Star Wars
And,
Insider,
yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Oh, yeah.
So I was reading your
So,
stuff.
Was that did you solicit to them like your artwork to get into that? Or did your agent get you into that? How did
No.
that work?
It's kind of a long story. I'll try to give the condensed version because I don't know how interesting it would be. But
we got a lot of listeners who are probably trying to break into the business.
Absolutely.
They might want some tips on.
well, the other thing
how did it happen?
that's interesting is
What's your
again,
secret?
this was 23 years ago. This was before
Exactly.
email addresses
Yep.
and stuff. So
Yep.
the way that you would do it now, I'm sure would be very different. Back then, my in was that I had read that the Star Wars role-playing game, they had a new book that was coming out called the Star Wars Adventure Journal, which was instead of a game, it was just going to be short stories. And it said that they were looking for writers. And writing was also something that I wanted to do, even though illustration was my focus. So I contacted them and I said, listen, I want to submit a story, but I would also like to submit artwork. And they said, we already have a team of Lucasfilm approved artists. We don't need any artists. We're not interested in that. They said, but if you want to send like some basic sketches or something, that's something that we could take and give to the real artists, for the real artists to use. And then anyway, long story short, I wrote what I thought was a really great story. I did the best artwork I could. I sent it in, and they thought my story was did not like it at all. They were not into it, but they kind of like. But they really liked the artwork, and they said, "Listen, if there's if we ever have an artist that flakes out or something like that, we'll keep you in mind."
Nice.
I figured I'd never hear from them again. The very next day,
Oh, I was going to say,
I got a phone call, and they
Right.
said, "Listen, we need 5 illustrations. We need them tomorrow," which is kind of unheard of. And I was like, "I can do it." That's where Adam Sandler stepped in and said, "You can do it."
Yeah, right.
And so I did 5 illustrations. And the funny story about that, the very first book that I was in, they were really small black and white illustrations.
Okay.
It wasn't anything on the cover, any of the full color pages in there. So I would show people this book, the first book that I worked on, and people would flip through and they'd say, "Oh, the Millennium Falcon, did you draw that?" And I'd say, No, keep going. "Oh, Darth Vader, did you draw that?" No, keep going. And there's like a small little rebel commando that no one's ever seen before. "See that? I drew that." And they're like, "Oh. Yeah.
It's like,
oh, Boba Fett, did you draw that?" No, but
well, it's just like it's just like someone who tells their mom, like, "I'm in this movie." I'm like, "Where?" Wait, I'm in. Okay,
There's my
see
head.
that guy in the background? That's me.
See his back turned in the jacket? That's me. Yeah.
That's your start. That's how you get in
awesome.
there.
yeah.
That's great. So what did you think when they said your story did not meet their expectations? How did you feel about that? Because I'm sure you put a lot of your efforts into that.
Well, at first it was a bummer because it was kind of no to everything,
Yeah.
But they at least said that we really did do like the artwork, and I still figured I'd never hear from them again. I was fine with that. I was young. I was 22 years old,
Oh,
so
wow. Yeah.
I gave it my best shot. And then it was cool because that I ended up doing some writing for role-playing for West End Games, which used to do the role-playing game. I did some writing for them later on, so
Okay.
so that was neat, and
Yeah.
I've gotten to do little bits of writing here and there.
Well, it's
just
cool that you
background
got
fill-in.
into out there with Lucasfilm at a time where Star Wars hadn't taken off to the point where it is now.
Right.
Because the special releases didn't come out
It
just
was,
yet.
yeah.
it was in that, not a lull, because Star Wars was always popular.
Oh,
but
right.
It was not in the public consciousness.
Right, because after
Right,
because I graduated in '94, and then in college, like '97, '98 is when they released the special editions.
Right.
And I remember that was a big time. And that's where it got back into everyone's collective again.
Right.
And all of a sudden it just started getting
Like
bigger, and then
the demand
the
for it
prequels came
really,
out,
really
obviously,
revealed
and
itself.
just
Right.
blew up again.
But I
Yeah.
think
So
they
it's
were
cool that you
pretty-
were out there
Were
before
you
it
involved
happened.
with Lucasfilm when the special editions came out?
Oh yeah.
So
absolutely.
were they surprised at the reception? Because I think it was bigger than they anticipated.
They were. It was a great time to work for Lucasfilm because the company was really small at that point, and it really was like a family, and it really was people that loved Star Wars.
Yeah.
And
You
it was
felt
really
right at home,
neat.
didn't you?
Yeah. But it was during a time where the real Star Wars fans that had stuck with it, that were just loving, like the Timothy Zahn novels and
Yep, I
the
remember
Dark
those.
Empire comic books and all that fun stuff.
Right.
But it seemed like they were really timid, and they were wondering if Star Wars was kind of past its prime, and if it was just going to go down in history as something like Flash Gordon or Buck Rogers, and just be this thing of the past, you know. And everything that they did, from the special editions to it just kept getting bigger and bigger. And I think no one, and even today, I mean, Star Wars has never been bigger.
Oh, it's crazy.
And I don't think anyone, I don't even think I could have imagined how big it actually has become.
Right.
You know?
Well, he's created something that lives in the culture. People know what Star Wars is, but it's passed from generation to generation now.
Right.
I mean, your kids are into it, and I'm sure there's people who are probably a little older than you and I who have had it, went to their kids, and now it's into the grandkid stage.
Yeah.
And it's stories of old, like the Snow Whites and Shakespeare, that gets passed down, but Lucas created something that is really, it's part of the culture now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it is.
It could have stayed the same, and it still would have been still big, but not as big as now. Obviously, once Disney got a hold of it, they got to make their money back, and now it's huge, right? So everything's Star Wars. You go to a store and you can find anything you want. Anything on this table, you can find a Star Wars version of it. Right?
Well, it's more. They knew how to brand it. Like
True enough.
Disney understood like the branding. Like they brand everything that they have, and they're like, okay, this is our new brand.
Right.
We have Marvel. We have Star Wars. We have. I mean, I'm talking about it from the outside in, but it seemed like Lucasfilm was living on the fact that look at Star Wars, and it was branded, but Disney's taken that and really encapsulated.
Oh,
it and
absolutely.
made it something else.
To the point where I have a fear as a Star Wars huge fan that it's going to overstay its welcome, right? It's going to become not obsolete, but what am I searching for here?
Like you said, oversaturated.
Oversaturated, where it becomes a little too much.
It'll lose its allure.
Every year you have a movie where people are confused between Force Awakens and Rogue One. They're like, what? Which one? Where's Darth Vader?
Yeah. I have my own
universe, though.
Yeah, I have my own thoughts about what the plan is with that, and what I would do. But I don't know. Everyone's got their own thing.
Absolutely.
Of what it would do. I don't think it's too many. I think one a year is. I mean, if you look at the Marvel movies, they've usually got like
two
three
or three.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
These two, yeah.
So I don't think it's too many movies. I do think it's. I think this is just my opinion, but. And I'm not someone that hated the prequels. I thought the prequels were fun. But I think anytime you go back in time, I think it's when you already know what happens after that, I think there's a sense of urgency that's lost. So to go back, for example, for Rogue One, it's about how the rebels steal the secret plans for the Death Star.
Right.
And everyone already knows the spoiler ending. They do. They succeed, you know?
Right.
So what could you possibly do that would just keep people on the edge of their seats like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen?
Right.
You know?
So you're on the side that, and I agree with a lot of this, is that you're mining old material when you know the outcome. It's not as interesting as new stories and new characters.
Exactly.
And new this, which is why we're excited to kind of see, even though Luke's in it and whatnot, you're excited to see where Finn and Rey will go. Those are new characters.
Right.
Exactly.
You don't know what their story is. Yeah.
Like we always knew Obi-Wan and Anakin were going to duke it out at some point in the trilogy.
Well, you can kind of relate that to the Han Solo story coming out soon. We know all
I
how
can
he
guarantee
became
he's
that,
going to
right?
come out just fine, and when he and Chewie are about to crash land, it's like, relax. They're not gonna make it.
The stakes are awfully low.
Right.
Unless you create some emotional conflict in the movie, like, what are you going to say? Do I like Chewie? Do I not like Chewie? Well, it doesn't really work because they wind up together. So I agree. I agree with that.
Right. But at the same time, I still want to see it because,
of course,
it is Star Wars, and I like the actor who they have as Han Solo. I've seen him in just one role, but he's got something to him where you just like he's got that.
And the directors that made the
Lego
movie,
made a better choice.
My
yeah,
gosh,
you can't.
It's going to be so much fun.
Yeah, I think that might be the right choice for that. The nature of what Han Solo is. It's going to have a nice, lighthearted feel to it, I think, and that's going to be fun.
That was a pretty smart choice. But it comes back to that idea that people want to know, how to say it. People are looking for things that they're already familiar with, and they want to know. Like that sense of discovery, a lot for a lot of people is gone.
Right.
They want to know what they're going to get. That's why trailers spoil a lot now. Well, I don't know what the movie's about. What happens in it? Like, well, go see the movie.
Right.
A lot of people are like, well, I'm not really quite sure. Like, dude, go see it. Like, it'll come out in the end.
We did a trailer podcast not too long ago. I don't think anyone
I don't think
listen to
anyone
it.
listened to it.
Our trailer, we talked about movie trailers.
That
and
was,
like
I think,
how
that was our lowest.
that was our lowest in a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, for some reason
So
people
the audience
whatever.
has spoken. So yeah, no more movie trailer podcast.
But we talked about how what they used to be like trailers in the past, where they actually would film something for the trailer specifically for that
Yes.
event,
Oh,
right?
right.
Instead of showing you a bunch of clips,
Right.
but they would set the tone up right, and you would
Right.
get an idea what the story's about without seeing all these amazing things you're going to see, like all these special things. Now they're trying to grab your attention immediately nowadays,
Right.
and like throw as
Well,
much
now
stuff
they
at
shoot
you
things for
so
the
you go
movie
see it.
specifically to put in the trailer. This is a good trailer shot. That's a
Right.
good trailer shot.
Right. So it's kind of similar to what they did before, but they would shoot like an Alien and Terminator 2. They shot stuff directly that weren't even a part of the movie at all, but they were just little snippets that they made for that movie. Which I think those are a lost art form now. You don't get those anymore.
They're neat
Yeah.
little 2-minute movies.
yeah.
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 That's
Sometimes
cool.
even less than that. Just a quick little
Exactly.
snippet.
Yep.
Right.
It's a huge bummer that it's more about getting people in seats than it is having people walk out of the theater having not been ruined by the trailer and saying, wow, I was blown away. I had no idea any of that was
Right.
going to happen.
Right.
That doesn't matter. It's really just about the ticket sales. So even at the expense of ruining the movie, it's really just about getting a trailer that's going to make people want to see it.
Yes.
Even if
Yeah.
you're showing them everything.
I know.
How do
it's
we get a
crazy.
big opening weekend?
Yeah.
Did you
Right.
get a sense when you were out there that there's a battle like the suits and the creatives, like people who want to tell? I think it's pretty well proven. You tell a good story with good characters, people go to the movie. But there's the other side of the camp that put a lot of spectacle in it and a lot of mayhem, and people go see it. Did you witness a lot of this is better for the story, and people like, well, we don't care about that. This is better for the spectacle, and this will sell to the four quadrants. Did you witness a lot of that?
There's so much, and especially half of my experience is working on the actual productions. The other half is working in advertising.
Oh, really?
Which is
Okay.
just bananas. So there's a lot of I would work in movie poster design, and there's so many weird things, and I still notice it today where there's all these rules where, and it's never the actors that choose this, it's their agents that are trying to protect their clients.
Sure.
But there's all these rules, like whoever the star is, their name has to be first. A lot of times their name has to be at least 5% bigger, and a lot of times it has to be higher.
Yeah.
So sometimes you'll look at a movie poster and you'll see everyone's name at the top, and if you look, the very first one is a little bit bigger and a little bit
Interesting.
higher just because that was the rule.
Right.
And sometimes it's funny because you'll have like the three main actors, you'll have like one person here, one person here, one person here. The names at the top won't match where they're standing in the
Interesting.
poster because a lot of times they have to let's say you have something symmetrical, like a person in the middle and then these two people here.
Right.
Well, the person in the middle, obviously, if their face, if their head has to be, again, 10% larger, you're not going to put them on the side. You're going to put them in the middle to
Right.
create symmetry. But their name has to be first.
Right.
So instead of having their name above their head, you're going to have their name over
Yeah.
here,
Isn't that crazy?
over this person's head, and then a different one here, and it's just weird. But it's all politics.
There's a great story about that with Towering Inferno.
Okay.
With Steve McQueen and Paul Newman.
Yeah.
They were two big hitters, and they were heavy hitters back in the day, right? That time frame. And they had a big battle between who was going to be the top bill. And so the way they situated it was, I forget who was first, but Paul Newman's name, I think, came first, but Steve McQueen's name was higher.
So weird.
Yeah,
seen that a
and that
few
was how they
times in other
they
movies.
both wanted to be the
I've
first.
seen that
but
before,
yeah,
yeah.
but
I've
one
seen
had to
that.
be higher, like you're saying.
Yeah.
And but Paul's was first. So
I
they
wonder if
figured
that's
out a way to do it.
why, like in every Denzel Washington film, he's the only person on the poster. I wonder if that's one of his stipulations. Like no other actor.
I haven't
Quite
heard that, but
possibly.
it's possible.
Could
It's
be.
certainly possible.
Maybe because
yeah.
maybe because if you think about his movies, there's not very many great secondary characters.
Probably by design.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got this great ensemble role for you. No. Just me.
The last time he shared space, it seems like it was Man on Fire,
Yeah, with Ella. Was it Ella Fanning?
Ella Fanning,
when she was
yeah.
young. Yeah, it's great. It's a good call.
which remains my
Right.
favorite Tony Scott and Denzel film. I think.
It might very well. And they had a really crazy subtitle thing going on. Do you remember that movie, Man on Fire?
I
Where
don't think I saw that
it's about Denzel Washington's like a bodyguard for someone in I think South America, Central America.
They're in Mexico, yeah.
And they're he's protecting a family. He's taking the daughter to school all the time, and then she gets kidnapped. And so he goes on a mission to get her back, and he just goes crazy.
He goes into the
Right.
cartel underworld to get
Yeah,
it back.
and because and it uses subtitles, and it doesn't really need to, but it keeps using his subtitles, but it puts them in different areas on the screen, and has them like
interesting.
fizzle out, and it was like, instead of just having them on the bottom, it was like they were
It
all
was
over
like
the place.
Tony
It was
Scott
cool.
really experimenting with the medium at
Yeah.
that point. Like the way he edited that.
Mhm.
If you looked at his movies up to that point and looked at Man on Fire, he was really trying some things out.
Right.
The photography was different. His editing style was different, and he used the, like I was talking. If I'm talking to you right now, I'm talking to you right now. It would pop up next to my head
Okay.
instead of just at the bottom. It's
Right.
cool. Like it's a cool
That is
movie.
cool.
Yeah,
It was
I
different.
liked it a lot.
And now you see that a little bit more. You'll see subtitle coming in and not being just in the bottom.
Right.
It's an
There was a
interesting
little
way.
bit of that in
Right.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
I think there
was.
might have been. There was a couple. I think you're right.
I always hate when I see it again because I'm like, it's not as good as Man of Fire.
So I don't want to beat up Star Wars too much because we talk a lot about Star Wars here,
Sure.
and I know you're a big Star Wars
That's
guy.
why
so
the gentleman is here.
well, yes,
Yeah,
but
that's
there's more to
fine.
talk about. But
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff.
with Star Wars, what was your first experience, your first exposure to Star Wars?
I was 4 years old when it came out,
Okay.
and my parents actually went to go see it first because everyone was going to see Star
Right.
Wars, so they wanted to see it to make sure it was appropriate.
That's what I do now.
And so they came home and they were like, absolutely not.
Oh,
And
Really?
because to them, I mean, here was this movie where Luke Skywalker's aunt and uncle get burnt to a crisp,
Okay.
and
True,
Obi-Wan Kenobi
true.
gets cut in half, and an entire planet of people gets blown up
that's
and
true.
stuff.
Okay.
So they thought it was just a little too tense for me to go see. So the great thing that happened, I was probably the last kid in my school that got to see it. But a few weeks later, my parents went out of town for the weekend, and my grandparents are watching me. So I remember on a Saturday, they were like, "What would you like to do, Matthew?" And I was like, "We should go see Star Wars." And they were like, "Star Wars? Are you sure your parents would be okay with that?" And I was like,
grandparents.
"Of course."
Like everyone's
They-
seen
they-
Star Wars.
yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be great. So I tricked my grandparents into taking me to go see it.
Bravo.
Did they enjoy
Yeah.
it?
I don't remember. I think they did. I just remembered, as everyone, the first time you see it and that Star Destroyer goes over your
Right.
head, just
Oh my
like,
God! Yeah, I remember. I mean, I remember the experience. I only remember the beginning and the last half of the film. I was 6, and we were going to see it. My dad says we're going to go see Star Wars tomorrow, and I had no reference point of what that meant. And to my mind, it meant, well, Star Wars. Does that mean like Clint Eastwood and Burt Reynolds are going to be duking it out? Like,
Right.
it's like kind of like a Cannonball Run scenario. And I went to see it, and I was totally blown away.
And that's what's cool.
I didn't really fully understand it.
Well, right. How could you at that
yeah.
point? But what's great is
A lot.
the time frame where movies came out back then is you didn't have the exposure you have now, where it's everywhere, right? Where you just got like the advertisements, you got maybe a commercial spot, you saw it in the theater as a trailer, and that was it.
right.
And so you got maybe write-ups in papers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the buzz was created with much more,
With who
resonance
saw it,
with people,
the
right?
experience,
Yeah.
because it looked,
Different.
to a lot of people's admission, it looked kind of cheesy. It looked like Flash Gordon and like a sub-level sci-fi genre film, but it wasn't until people started to
seeing
really
it and
get
people
out
just
there,
went crazy with it. Yeah, I was 1 when it came out, so I don't even remember seeing it other than when it came in the drive-in.
Okay.
And I was in the drive-in, and all I remember seeing, I was in the back of a station wagon. I popped up, saw what the Jawa scene, and I popped back down because I was like, "What the fuck was that?"
Right.
That's all I remember. So I don't know how old I was by the time I got in the drive-in. So I had to be probably maybe 4 by the time I don't know, because they kept releasing it,
Oh, yeah.
obviously. So
Oh, yeah.
I was probably somewhere around 3 or 4 when I first saw it, and it was just like, whoa, what is this? That's crazy. Droids and
Oh, yeah.
Jawas, and I was like, this is crazy.
Were you still involved through the development of Phantom Menace and that whole process?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to hear about that. Is like, because that seemed like it came out of like that was in development for quite a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Is that how did it come about?
Well, during that time, I wasn't actually working on the movie. I was working for the Star Wars Insider magazine.
Okay.
So I was everything kind of behind the scenes of behind the scenes.
Understood.
But yeah, it was a great time. It was an exciting time.
That sounds like the beginning of a movie. It was a great time.
Yeah.
It was an exciting time.
Yeah. No, it was cool. It's hard to That was a long time ago.
That is a while ago now. when you think
So
about
there's
it,
so
yeah.
many things that I've worked on. It's hard to remember exactly what, other than if I did illustrations that were related to the Phantom Menace. But no, it was great. It was trying to think if there's anything in particular that was the transition right during the time that movie came out. Was during the time that I had relocated back to the Detroit area.
Okay, right on.
So so I was happy. I was kind of nervous at first, like if people saw that my home address wasn't in Los Angeles anymore. Were they gonna stop giving me calls or whatever? And I've continued to never get busier and never get busier and never get
Fantastic.
busier.
Good
So
for
it's
you.
been it's been great.
That's awesome to be able to do it from home. And are you married?
Yes.
Is
Yep.
your wife from here?
She is. Yeah.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
cool. You're able to relocate back here and keep the connection.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, I knew I wouldn't meet my wife in Los Angeles, so that was also part of the reason
Right.
of moving back to
You know,
find a
when
nice
I-
Midwest girl.
When I was leaving and I was finally making traction with filmmakers out there, the young graduates from USC, they told me like, "You're leaving. That sucks. But just know, you're gone.
When you're gone. You're gone.
You're gone.
Yeah.
You're kind of forgotten." And they were absolutely right. Like I remember communicating with them a little bit through email after that, and a little bit on Facebook, but I dropped quickly because they're like, "If you're not here with us, we don't have time for you."
Different thing
It's
for
kind
you
of-
because
kind of thing.
you weren't developing content.
Right,
Right.
right.
You know,
I
like
was just
you weren't
working on
supplying content. Yeah,
productions however
exactly.
I could, and they were like, "We want you here, but if you're going to move back, just know."
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Give me tough for you, Jay. Rough road. Nice knowing you.
See you later.
See you later.
And they were right. They were right. That
Want me to
kind of
help you
sucks,
pack?
but
Okay.
yeah. I'll be back. I want to keep talking. They're like, "Yeah, okay." Because I mean, how many times do they hear that from people who come out
Sure.
trying something?
Oh, yeah.
And maybe fail at it, or I had an objective to leave, obviously, and they're like, just know,
Well, like
we're fickle out
percentage
here.
of people we hear from again are pretty slim. So
Right,
We're not
exactly.
Gonna kill ourselves.
Yeah. So with the prequels, we trash on the prequels quite a bit. But I can't fault anybody for enjoying, because I still enjoyed them when I saw them.
Yeah.
The more and more I watch them, the more and more I
Sure.
get angry with them. But
Yeah, there's
so when
stuff
you
to
saw them,
love
were you
and stuff to
yeah,
hate.
I really like Revenge of the Sith.
I
do
really-
I like that movie.
And we've talked about how that movie could be so much better by focusing on certain things. But which one of the prequels do you like the most?
Oh, that's hard to say. I might be in the minority here, but I really like Attack of the Clones.
I had a feeling you were gonna say
Maybe Revenge of the Sith. There's even things about the Phantom Menace. Overall, is not my favorite, but Phantom Menace has Darth Maul, and Phantom Menace has the greatest lightsaber battle out of any other Star Wars movie to date.
It
Yeah, the
feels
three-
like
the
the
three-
most.
threesome?
It feels like the most ambitious. Like he's really reaching for it in Phantom Menace. He's
Mm-hmm.
creating all new worlds and all new scenarios, and he's getting the story off the ground.
Right.
By the time you get the Sith, you kind of know what's going to happen.
Right.
He's
Oh
going to
yeah,
turn evil.
it's one of those things where we know what's going to happen because
and in
we've heard
Phantom
this stuff
Menace,
before.
it's like this whole new. He's all these new worlds and all these new characters, and he's introducing. Every scene in the first 30 minutes, he's like, "Well, this is a new person. Well, this is a new world. And this is a new this."
Right.
And, the boss Nass, and
Yeah.
I'm not even going to try to. I won't embarrass myself with trying to say names. So.
Well, with
I like
Sith, it's the movie that we all wanted to see because
Right.
it was the stuff. It had the stuff that we heard about.
Right.
Wiping out the Jedi, him
Yeah.
becoming Anakin becoming Darth Vader, the Jedi being purged. All that was what we've just been getting snippets of.
Right.
So you had this mental image of what you wanted to see, and it was all kind of condensed into one movie.
Yeah.
It's all the stuff we really wanted to see right there. But you're right. That lightsaber battle was pretty badass. Now, do you think that you don't think that's better than the Anakin Obi-Wan?
No, I definitely
At the
think.
Sith.
This is just for me, but
Sure.
I definitely think, in particular, when after Qui-Gon gets killed, that moment where Obi-Wan Kenobi goes ape-s on Darth Maul, just the passion and the intensity of it is way more than anything, including the Anakin. The Anakin and Obi-Wan lightsaber is cool. It's also like a 14-minute lightsaber battle.
Yeah,
So
it's
like
longer
that's
than
cool,
that, yeah.
14 minutes of lightsaber fighting, but it's just not to me, I'm all about quality over quantity.
Absolutely,
So
yeah.
if
It had
it's-
more intensity.
Yeah.
As far as because you're right, because at that moment where Obi-Wan watches his mentor die, and there's that fear, because it sells it.
Yeah.
So
Well, I was just
good.
gonna say, in both those scenarios, Ewan McGregor is the MVP in both of those
Oh, absolutely.
in both of those battles because
Yeah.
he sells the emotion, he sells the emotional investment. Because when he watches Qui-Gon die, you can see it on his face, and,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I love that little rock he does when
Yeah.
he's ready. He's ready for the power shield
Yeah,
to come
yeah, yeah,
down.
yeah.
He's primed. And
Right.
He's ready to go, and he comes out there swinging. I love that. That's a great moment. I love that.
Yeah, it's really cool. They so I don't know if you watch Rebels, Star Wars Rebels.
Oh, yeah.
So did you see the the last Obi-Wan versus Darth Maul
Oh,
battle?
yeah.
That was pretty
Yeah,
cool. And when
that was.
I was doing a little reading into it, and it's kind of cool. So it was so fast. It was like 3 seconds of a battle.
Right.
But what they showed, and if you look at it, he actually fools Darth Maul by showing Qui-Gon Jinn's stance after he shows his stance, and he
never
lulls him into
realized
that. I'm gonna fight the way my master did, and that gives Darth Maul a way to he's gonna fight him. And then he
Gotcha.
quickly gets the upper hand because he switched back to his own style.
Yeah.
And he kind of lulled him into a false sense of what he was
Yeah.
doing. It was a nice strategy
Interesting.
by the old man.
I'd never even
Yeah.
caught that.
And I didn't either.
He was
I read
using
it.
the crane on him. Using the Karate Kid crane.
Exactly. It was pretty
Right.
awesome. Well, I do like the Rebels too because the Rebels show actually, like I didn't care for the Clone Wars all that much. There's
me-
good parts of
yeah.
it, but the way they're bridging the gap, so
Mm-hmm.
to speak, with the music and the characters, and it's making everything feel like just so much more richer now that you're combining these, stories
Yeah.
to get to what we already know.
I think
pretty
it's better storytelling, and it's a better continuation where most of the episodes of Star Wars Rebels, you feel like it leads to the next one. There's not many
Right.
throwaway episodes. There's been
Right.
a couple, but I feel like in Clone Wars there was a lot of episodes where it was just like, this is a Jar Jar episode, and like you didn't really need it.
Yeah.
Or this is a C-3PO and R2-D2 episode, which might have been good, but at the same time, could you pull it out and you would have been able to follow along the overall story?
Yeah.
It just feels like it's throwaways.
Like,
Yeah, I
like,
think you're right.
like a Family Matter template. This is our Urkel episode.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, they
Who's
had
this?
like what
This is
24
our
episodes
popular
per season
character.
per season,
Right.
where I think Rebels is what, like 12
Yeah.
or
something
13.
Like that.
So
it might be closer to 20 or something.
is it really?
I
Okay.
think so.
I thought it was a little less because it felt like, yeah, you're right, because there was less throwaways. And I
Yeah.
think you get that a lot of TV shows that have a lot longer of a season where there's just so much they have to fill in.
Mm-hmm.
Where you have a shorter season, like what Netflix is doing their 13 episodes, everything is more condensed because they don't have frivolous episodes just to get you another episode.
Filler, right.
Yeah, filler.
It just
yeah.
makes me think of how large an organization Lucasfilm must be now, because you have the games, you have the
Oh,
toys,
man.
you have
Mm-hmm.
the board games, you have the movies, you have the TV shows, you have all the different branding going on. I'm sure a lot of it's vendored out, but God, they must be just a giant machine now.
Yeah.
And you've been to Skywalker Ranch, right?
Oh yeah, several times. Yeah.
Nice.
It's cool.
Yeah,
Quite
all right.
experience.
So, yeah.
It's a pretty,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's epic. Just the stories. What's funny about it is it's not as mysterious as I thought it was. Because I could swear I remembered as a kid reading stories about how Skywalker Ranch was this like place that wasn't even on a map, and that when they would take actors there, that they would blindfold them, and they would take them in a bus that had the windows painted black. I don't know where I or maybe it's my imagination that I read it.
Imagination, that's awesome.
And it's, they're security, and obviously
prodding
they
it
don't
with a
want
stick.
people on
Do
the
they
premises
have
and stuff, but-
stormtroopers as their security guards? Because they should.
No.
Oh, that's a
I
damn
know.
shame. What a waste of
Someone
opportunity
asked
that
me
is.
once if
You'd have to
they're,
pay someone an awful lot of money to stand out there in the California heat.
Well, you have. Okay, so you're a part of the 501st.
Oh yeah.
Are you
yeah,
not? Right?
yeah, I am.
Okay, so why don't they get the
Alright.
501st out there?
Oh, they've been out there, I'm sure.
Okay.
But yeah, but no, it's just a security guard with just a one
Right.
single
Yeah.
It's got to be on the list.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Mark. Mark Hamill, we can't see you today. By the way, Dr. Rubenstein has a contact for Mark Hamill.
Yeah, he mentioned that yesterday.
Yeah.
He's gonna
So,
he's gonna bargain out with you on that one.
You're right.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I'm
what?
really interested to hear about your the movie
Yeah.
you're
Okay.
making. Yeah, I mean how that all
Aladdin
came about.
3477, correct?
The,
Yeah, so it's forever, ever since I was a kid, I always wanted to not only work for George Lucas and work for Star Wars, or any of these Hollywood companies, but I've also wanted to make my own epic
Right.
sci-fi saga kind of
Right.
thing. So I started writing it and coming up with ideas in college, and for a long time it had nothing to do with Aladdin. But I took my idea, and because I was starting to make waves in comic books, my plan was I'm just going to make the comic books, and then maybe someone will buy the rights to the series, and they'll make it as a movie, or maybe
Okay.
I'll make it as a movie one day. And I got halfway through the first issue of this thing. It was called Castar Shandax, and it was about this intergalactic con artist that had this little robot named Fidji, and he falls in love with a princess. I got halfway through it, and then I realized I actually, at the same time, I was contacted by a magazine called Fan Magazine, which did comic books and pop culture and stuff. But they hired me to do an Aladdin illustration. I was like, oh, that's cool. And this was after, so this is a couple years after the Aladdin movie had come out. But so as I'm working on this Aladdin illustration, I'm thinking about this comic book I'm drawing, and I'm realizing, oh my gosh, my story is just like Aladdin.
Oh, no kidding.
But it was like Aladdin set in space.
Sure,
and I was
sure.
so bummed out about that because here I was thinking, there's never been a story like this. You know?
I got this amazing original concept, and Disney.
Right. So anyway, so that kind of took the winds out of my sails. So I really loved the story though, so I started taking the story again, but kind of putting the emphasis on different characters so it wouldn't seem so Aladdin-like.
Okay.
There was no djinn or genie or lamp or anything like that, but it's still just the basic, character love triangle was kind of already there. So I tried switching the characters a little bit, and I made some comic books called Daria Jontak, but it still didn't have the flavor that I wanted. So around the time that I wanted to make my own movie and I just wanted to do it all myself and just kind of go all in. Originally the movie was going to be called Klepto Mode, but I started thinking about Aladdin, and because Aladdin is public domain, I wasn't totally sold on the idea at first, but it occurred to me that I could just make it Aladdin instead of trying to make it something else. I could just kind of keep it how it was, just make it Aladdin.
Okay.
So the more and more I thought about it, but again, I didn't have a lamp and I didn't have a genie, and so inserting those into my story just really made it weird.
Okay.
So it was just
Forced.
a number of years forced.
Yeah.
So it was just a number of years of really thinking about it and how could I make the story work and
How could you turn it?
Yeah,
Yeah, make it your own, yeah.
What would I make no one can top Robin Williams, what he brought to the genie.
Right.
So I had to come up with something that would just be completely different because there's no point in trying to, do that thing.
Right.
So about 5 years ago is when we started production and really started doing I started doing storyboards and building props and stuff like that. We traveled the world, and it's this thing called Aladdin 3477. It takes place on Earth. It's not in space anymore, but it's 1,500 years in the future, and it looks like Star Wars set in Asia, but it feels like Indiana Jones.
Whoa.
Oh, good combination.
There's
How'd you
my
pick the
thing,
year?
That's a funny story because I'm an honorary member of the 501st Legion of Stormtroopers, and when you do that, you have to pick your TK number.
Okay.
And it's a 4-digit number that you have to pick. And I kept asking different numbers that I thought were clever, and they were already taken by people in the 501st. So I just took my name, MATT, and I turned the letters sideways.
Oh.
And if you turn the M sideways, it looks like a 3.
Okay.
The A looks like a 4, and then the T's, if you have a big imagination, they kind of look like 7s.
Sure, sure.
So
Right on.
So 3477 is Matt. So I'm TK. I think I have it. Is it on this side? Oh, the other side. I have TK.
You got so much ink you don't even know where anything is.
Yeah, right.
TK 3477. So when it came time to doing the Aladdin thing, I knew I wanted it a year in the future. And I didn't really put a lot of thought into it. So I just started calling it Aladdin 3477 because that was just a number that,
Made sense,
would just
right.
roll off the tongue. I never wanted to keep it that. But then when I started writing the script, when I got to a point where I was like, okay, I need to, let's be solid on a year. Anytime I had a different number, like Aladdin, 2387, no, that doesn't have a good ring to it. Or what about 2862?
You could do that. You could do that.
3477, and that was it. So I was just like, all right,
Stick what you got.
What I
yeah.
like about
Okay.
3477 is it's so far out there, you can do whatever you want.
right.
There's no questions about, we'd never invent that in 100 years, or we wouldn't get that far. You're so far out there that create anything you want
Yeah.
without question.
That's
Yeah.
huge in the future. Can I ask you a
Yeah.
question?
Yeah.
So you said you have a robot named Fidgy.
Yes.
Did you get that from perhaps Twiggy from Buck Rogers? Is that a little
Bitty,
bit of
bitty,
a-
bitty, bitty, bitty.
You know what? I would say there probably is that. And it was Fidgy was the robot, again, that was in that Castar Shandax comic book that I did. And that was just, it was this cute name that I just thought was really cute
Okay.
for a robot. But I would, now that you mention it, I would say Twiggy is
Subconsciously
probably
just- yeah.
subconsciously in there for
Right,
sure.
right.
Oh, I was such an 80s robot kid with that. And Muffet from Battlestar Galactica, and
Yes.
Vincent from The Black Hole and everything.
I was an 80s Aaron Gray kid.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I've
We just
Hopped
all
into
go,
her
"Oh."
purple spandex.
yeah.
Anytime you get these sci-fi films and the girls in some
Especially in the
cat,
80s.
like a cat suit style, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, for God's sake.
That's actually stuck though.
Yeah.
It seems like that's still there now. Everyone's still in tight spandex.
Yeah.
Well, because the girl could be naked, but she's not naked.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
she
pretty
was
cool.
great, and it was funny. I did a show once where, sometimes when you do shows, you have people that are like your helpers, your handlers, or they drive you to the airport and stuff. And sometimes if the shows are cheap, they'll double people together, so you'll have one person helping two either artists or actors or whatever.
Sure.
And so I went to a show once where the handler that was helping me was also helping Aaron Gray.
Oh.
And it just turned out that our planes landed at the same time. So for the entire weekend, I got to hang out with Aaron and stuff. And so I was asking her all these questions about
I'm
Buck
sure, yeah.
Rogers and silver spoons and
Right.
stuff like that.
Silver
So
spoon,
funny.
Ricky Schroeder.
So
Yeah,
that would have
that's
been
awesome.
my dream come true.
Right.
Yeah.
Hanging out with Aaron
for
Gray.
sure.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
That's awesome. We are going to be doing some contest here
Yeah.
today. We have a couple
Oh,
questions we're going to
true,
ask here.
true.
But before we get to that, let's take care of a little business, Craig. Right? We got some business to take care of.
We got to call out to our sponsors.
Right. So if unless today is your very first time listening to the Jay Craig, everyone's heard of Thrive Chiropractic and Dr. Rubenstein in Troy, Michigan. I was skeptical at chiropractic care for a long time, and Craig recommended Dr. Rubenstein, and I said, dude, I've been to a lot. I don't want to go anymore. And Craig kept saying, go see Dr. Rubenstein. So after I finally went to see him, after 20 years of going in, getting adjustment, feeling like crap the next day, feeling like you've gone through the same thing.
I was just sick of hearing you complain about
Exactly,
it.
and
I just needed that to stop.
So you
And
got
I knew
to
he could
stop
help you.
because
Yeah.
finally I went to Dr. Rubenstein, and he's in Troy, Michigan. One adjustment, and I felt the difference. So if you have back problems, go see Dr. Rubenstein. But after one adjustment, I felt the difference because I felt that he was doing something different that would fix me. Instead of feeling like I was going to be in pain for the rest of my life and just dealing with it, I finally went to see Dr. Rubenstein, and I'll never go to a different chiropractor again. And about a year and a half later,
About a year and a half, yeah.
I don't have back pain. My hips don't hurt. I don't complain nearly as much as I used to, and that's all because of Dr. Rubenstein. Now, his phone number is 248-574-9355. He's in Troy, Michigan. If you're in the Metro Detroit area, go see him. But if you do, and when you do, mention the Jay Craig podcast, do us a favor, and again, go see Dr. Rubenstein because you're going to do yourself a favor. But make sure you say the Jay Craig podcast. It's 248, get the number here again, 574-9355. He's also at thrivechiropractictroy.com if you want to go look him up. But do us a favor and go do yourself a favor and see Dr. Rubenstein in Troy, Michigan.
Right on.
Power's on.
Power's on.
So we have a couple contests.
Yes, we do.
The first item up for bid.
Oh, this is the grand one. I don't know if you want to do that one
Let's
last.
do that
'cause
last.
that's
Let's do
the-
that last. Okay, so we'll go number 2 or 3?
3.
Let's go number 3.
Ladies
So,
and gentlemen,
one-
this is the first Jay Craig giveaway.
Ooh, so if you're listening
That's right.
and or watching us, because we are on YouTube now, and we're on SoundCloud and iTunes and everywhere else, Matt, why don't you tell us what we got for our first one here?
All right, so this prize pack has 10 different posters or art prints in here. It has a Knights of Ren art print that was, these were given out at the Star Wars Celebration London last year. There are 2 different Aladdin 3477 teaser posters.
Excellent.
There's a Star Trek 4 Captains poster. There's a Comic-Con poster I did a number of years back that shows if Darth Vader and if Darth Vader and Indiana Jones were to get in a fight, who would win?
Ooh.
And this poster answers that question. There's a Force Awakens art print, and Empire Strikes Back 30th anniversary print. There's a Hollywood is Dead, The Living Dead Strikes Back poster. Evolution of the Empire, which is from the first Star Wars Celebration Europe, which was also in London 10 years ago. It's got all the different stormtroopers from the first 6 Star Wars movies and clone troopers.
Nice.
And then from Germany, there's a 20 years of Star Wars Passion poster.
Awesome.
And this is
Features
all
on my-
original artwork created by you.
This is original art prints. The original,
prints.
yeah, not the original.
Not the
artwork.
original
Yeah,
work.
yeah, yeah.
That'd be a heck of a giveaway.
Now you're
Yeah,
also
yeah,
going to get
exactly.
a Jay Craig T-shirt with each one of these as well. So this is the first of our 3 today.
People just
and
lost interest.
if you don't want the shirt, just tell us when you email us. Now the first question is based upon those who have been listening to us. So this is going to be an easy one. If you've been listening to us,
That's right.
what?
If you, oh,
Go ahead,
I'm
you say
sorry.
it, you say
I
it.
figured it was about you, so I figured I'd ask it.
Yeah, ask it.
All right. Contest question number 1. You've been listening religiously to the Jay Craig. This young gentleman has joined the podcast on numerous occasions, not necessarily invited. What is the name of Jason's firstborn son?
Okay, that is the first one. So here's how you're going to participate.
I'm sorry. Let me ask again, just so everybody hears it.
Okay.
Doesn't got to back it up.
Rewind.
Who was he asking about? What is the name of Jason's, Catron's,
That's me.
firstborn son?
Okay. Firstborn son of Jason. So here's how you're going to participate. If you're watching or just listening, you're going to email us at thejaycraig.podcast@gmail.com. thejaycraig.podcast@gmail.com.
You better put that in the video.
We will.
Yeah.
We can do that. Yeah. So the J Craig, you should also know how to get to us because you're actually listening to us now. So if you know how to spell the J Craig, just look on your screen. It's right there. .podcast@gmail.com. Give us the answer. First one to actually get it right. We'll get this amazing booklet
Prize package.
or,
prize pack.
as well as a J Craig T-shirt. Okay. Exciting.
Excellent.
All right. Okay.
Yes.
What's up next? What do you want to talk about?
Back to business.
Okay. No.
Well,
let's continue about the movie.
Yeah, I'm interested. Like, so
Yeah.
you're writing. You're
Yes.
writing it. Obviously, did you partner on a writer, or is it solely your creation?
It's solely mine. I bounced it off like my dad and my brother and a couple other people.
Okay.
But it's written by me, directed by me. My wife is producing. It is. We're trying to make the biggest, littlest movie ever. So
Okay.
it's all like family and friends.
Right.
A lot of people helping out. We're renting a sound stage in Clinton Township, which is where we're building most of our indoor sets.
Okay.
And then outdoor sets, we've been filming in my backyard. We have a set we're building right now in Lindsay's parents' backyard.
Okay. Is that where you're trying to kill the grass? I was watching a video.
Yes.
Okay.
We're killing the grass right now, so it doesn't look like Sterling Heights. And
It's amazing what filmmakers ask of other people.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
do you mind if I use your yard? That's great. I'm going to kill all your grass. Is that okay with you?
Can I just use the front of your house?
Do you mind if I blow your house up? It's just going to be real quick.
yeah, it's pretty epic. But
And you found a lot of local talent to
Yeah.
do this. And Jay and I are curious because this is how we met. We're curious about your association with Doug
yeah,
and
Kurt.
Kurt.
yeah.
The MPI.
So I've known those
MPI,
guys
yeah.
for a long time. Really, my association. Gosh, I'm trying to remember how I even met those guys. But I had a movie that my first movie that I did, which is not one that you should watch, but I think it's at Kmart still it's in their bargain bins for $1.99.
What's it called?
It's
go find
called
it.
Conjure. But that you might depending on when you went to MPI, they I've heard that in one of their classes they actually show this movie in their classes, not because the movie is so good,
Right.
but because I did a lot with a little. It was all done with a Sony Handycam,
Nice.
and for people that look at it that way, I think a lot of people are impressed with it. But there's still plenty of reviews out there that say this movie is so bad my eyeballs scabbed over from watching it. So
Well, it has a lot to do with you've got to watch movies like that in the right frame of reference.
True enough.
You made it yourself. You made it with limited equipment, with local talent. It's not going to be
A Hollywood blockbuster.
yeah.
Right.
You know, when you've got an army of people and money at your disposal, the movie's going to turn out a little different.
Yep.
It's not a professional, looking thing, but a lot with a little is good. What year did you make that? When was that?
started making it in 2003. It came out straight to DVD in 2006.
Right on.
Yeah.
Was that
Oh, very
another
cool.
2 to
Okay.
3 year ordeal making it?
Yeah, kind
Process.
of. It was just something for fun that I did on the side. I probably finished it. Yeah, it was probably about a year or two making it, and then once I signed the deal, by the time it came out, it was 2006.
Okay.
Okay.
We went in 2001. It was just after 9/11.
Oh, okay.
So I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
like a week or so
It was
after is when it
during
started.
that,
Yeah, it was like
yeah,
it had
yeah,
just
it
the
was
towers
happened.
had just fallen, and I think we had
Right.
class that Tuesday.
Wow.
And that was our first one.
Yeah.
So we were there for that year. I think that was maybe the second or third year of MPI's classes,
Second or third,
something
yeah.
like that. We were kind of early on, so we still used film.
Yeah.
They didn't have any digital
Oh, yeah.
filmmaking there. It was all 16 millimeter, and then we
Yeah.
worked on one of their projects was 35, but all our stuff that we shot was all 16,
Okay.
which was incredible.
So which project did you guys work on of theirs?
Well, I met them. The reason that what drew me to the school was years earlier. I want to say it was 96, 7, 98, somewhere in that time frame. They were shooting a movie up north, like Archangel, something like that. And they had Chris Wallace was involved to design the Archangel creature. And I had just gone. I had answered a call for, I think, through the community. I went to OCC before I went to Oakland University for my preliminary classes. Yeah, that's right. So it would have been earlier. It would have been earlier that I found out the information at OCC, went to this call for extras, and what he was doing prelim photography, staging and blocking, everything else. And they asked me hey, well, do you want to actually work on the movie? And I was like, yeah, for sure, man. But they were going up north to shoot it, and I was like, well, I've got school, and I can't just dump all my classes to go because they were going to be up there for a month.
Yeah.
So, but that's how I'd met them, and I'd met Doug, and I'd met Kurt, and met their crew, and I drew some storyboards for them that whether he used them or not, I've never seen the whole movie, I don't know. And that's when he was like, you really work on this thing because you look like you know what you're doing. That's cool. And so when it came back around to MPI, and I saw their names up there, I was like, oh, well, I kind of like these guys, so that's cool. I'll join the school. Yeah. And then they had actually shot a lot of footage. They showed a lot of footage. What they'd shot looked really good. They shot it on 35, looked great, but somewhere in there they ran out of funds, and only I think 25% of the movie was shot.
Yeah, I forget which one at that point which one it was. I know we were working on Kane's Children.
Okay.
That was when our end of our year was coming up. That was the film that we were supposed to be working on, was Kane's Children.
Right.
During that time, somewhere there was Dark Matter.
Is that the one that they took to Sundance?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, it was shot in Detroit, and then they did another one before that, which was Hellmaster.
Maybe Hellmaster's the one.
I think Hellmaster. That was their first one.
Yeah.
Right. Had John Saxon in it. If it didn't have John Saxon in it, it wasn't Hellmaster.
No, Hellmaster was completed, and I've seen it.
Okay.
The one I worked on never got finished.
It's all a big haze.
Right.
When it comes down to it. But we worked on a lot. It was cool working on 16. I mean, we got to work on with film. Yeah. That was awesome. And I shot 2 or 3 movies when I was there. We worked on a lot of stuff. And, God, it was a long time ago, man. 2001.
Yeah, it was a while ago, man.
Holy cow.
I had hair.
You did have hair.
I had hair.
So they're still going strong, but do you connect with them still?
I haven't connected with them in a while, but I had them out to my house a couple times to show them some things I was working on. I've been to the school just hanging out, and sometimes when he's working on a movie, I'll ask if I can come be a fly on the wall, and they've always been really generous and just letting me come and hang out. And and I've had some students that have gone on to become students at MPI or vice versa.
Okay.
I teach previs and storyboarding at Macomb College.
Okay.
So a lot of times we have crossover students.
Man, you are busy.
Yeah.
You are a busy man.
That's awesome.
But you're doing what you love, man. You can be busy. You can be completely crazy busy, and if you're doing what you love, it's not being busy at all.
It's not so bad when the alarm
it's
clock
like
goes
what they
off.
say: if you want something done, give it to a busy person.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when they love what they're doing. I mean, I know a lot of busy people who don't like what they're doing, and that busyness is crazy for them. But if you love what you're doing, you can take on all the work you want. You love doing what you're doing. That's awesome,
man. It's a whole different thing.
So now with this film, Aladdin 3477, so it's obviously a lot bigger in scope. When do you foresee completion? Do you have an idea when this is going to be done?
We'll be done filming probably in a year.
Oh, wow.
And then maybe another year after that.
Okay.
It's been nice because I've been editing as we go. Part of the reason it takes so long is because our soundstage, we usually can only have one set at a time built.
Right.
So, and we can usually only shoot on weekends. And as soon as one person can't make it that we need in the scene, and we'll shoot the next weekend.
Right.
And then another person who could make the other weekend, now they can't show up.
Isn't that crazy?
So things keep getting put. And then when we finish all of our scenes in one set, we have to tear everything down and build it back up. And we don't have armies and armies of people. So that's kind of why it's taking so long. But
that's a real labor of love right there.
It is.
Oh, yeah.
It is. Yeah. One of the things that we have that's really nice, though, is because it is taking longer, I'm able to edit as we go. And so, for one, if there's something we need to reshoot, I can usually catch it before we tear the set down. And if there's just a couple shots or something like that we need different. But the other thing that's great is I'm able to show, usually about once every 6 months, I'll get everyone that's working on it together, and we'll watch kind of a new rough of how everything's fitting in, and it really lets the actors really kind of see how their character is coming to life in the scope of the story so far. And it also helps me a little bit based on other scenes that we have. When we're shooting a new scene, I already have a sense of what the pace is. Like originally I might have thought this scene might need to be slower, but based on what's before and after it really helps me kind of try to find the sweet spots in between. I can't imagine it any other way. I can't imagine shooting something so big and just shooting the whole thing, handing it to someone to edit, and what works and what doesn't.
Well, there's huge advantages of that, because it's almost like working on an animated film. You're seeing little bits and pieces like, well, I need to add this now. Well, we don't need that. Well, now I can change it a little bit here, because there have been a lot of stories of movies that had to shut down for one reason or another and then come back and shoot, and it gives the director time to look at what he's got and like, well, this works and this doesn't, and I got to change this, and their movies are better for it. Like Pixar goes through this. They get a rough of the movie in pencil form before they even go a step further. I mean, I don't know for sure. I'm just.
Oh yeah.
And then they can say, well, it's working, doesn't work. Let's change this and change that, and that's why the stories are so tight. It seems like this 4 or 5 years to make an animated film. Now that's awesome. You get all that time.
Now, being with your, it's not obviously not an animated film. So with yours, do you find having those breaks in time and taking years to make the movie about having continuity and having things happen the same way if you're shooting another sequence as a part of a scene that you shot quite a while ago? How do you feel about that? Combining those together.
As a child actor now,
that's
14
the, that's the challenge, and thank God we didn't have any kids in the movie or anything. But yeah, it's been tough, because we're going on 4 years here. People get heavier, people get thinner, people get more gray in
depending
their
how young they are, their faces change.
Actors showing up trying to put his costume on.
So there's been a little bit of that, but not anything that knock on wood, not any of that I think anyone would notice in the movie. So we've been very lucky with that.
What I thought was really cool is I was watching that one video of your the grass, and then you were showing those big plates where they chip automotive equipment with, and it reminded me of the old school science fiction movies where Star Wars and they were creating on what they found and using something that could, if you paint it a certain way or add something to it, all of a sudden it looks like a science fiction wall. Right, and it's so cool that you're actually, instead of making things digital and having a green screen where you could do all this stuff and manipulate it, you're creating something which gives it that real tangible feel.
Actually, a really good, interesting question for me is that, so it's been 40 years, and I'm assuming you're shooting on digital. Digital technology has advanced very far. So have you gone back and looked at what you shot the first year, and there's a disparity between the image quality, anything like that?
That's actually interesting.
Not that I've noticed. We started right when we began principal photography. We started with the Blackmagic Cinema 4K production camera, and since then there's all of these new Blackmagic cameras that have come out, and they're just like every year there's something new, something bigger,
something more to learn.
Now it's like 8K and stuff, and at that point it's like I don't want to see people's blackheads,
There's a point where it gets a little too clear. Too clear.
And it doesn't feel like film anymore. It's way too clear.
But that's one problem I have with digital is you don't get that feel unless you really know what you're doing. Unless there's people out there. But I saw Star Trek Wrath of Khan at it's not the IMAX anymore, but the Henry Ford. They show classic movies now. Every Thursday or so, and I saw Wrath of Khan 2 weeks ago, and it looked awesome because it had that grainy feel to it. It wasn't a DVD or Blu-ray copy of it. It looked like just a transfer from the film. And it looked so good because it had that texture to it that you miss these days.
Feel to it. You're never going to get the colors in digital you get out of film. It's just never going to look like that.
But I mean, obviously today, especially when you're trying to make a movie on your own, it's so much easier to use digital.
It is.
You can do so much
there are a lot of advantages.
Huge freedom. If you would have spent 4 years shooting film, and the cost of that is ridiculous. You can shoot all you want on digital and make all the mistakes you want. Experiment. When we were shooting those little movies, it's like the margin for error was very, very slim.
Yes. Because you're just like you own money. You're taking your own money, buying film, and you're sending it out to California to get it processed, and all that stuff. And you're hoping it comes back good because you're like, I hope everything was good on that. I hope there was no light getting into the camera. I hope I had it the spooled right and
Is
everything.
the gate clear?
Yeah, there's
of
all those
things,
fears
yeah.
of having what could go wrong with it, and with digital, you know what you have.
Right.
Right.
You-
Looking at it
Instantly,
right
you can
then and
watch it
Right,
and
right.
check it out.
Are you doing the effects as you go along too, or is that?
I'm doing basic effects, just basic compositing and things like that, like
Okay.
for holograms and stuff. Whether we're actually going to do any CGI or not, I'm not sure. When I originally set out on this, I was thinking we would have to do CGI, but we've been going mostly the practical route.
It's awesome.
And it looks so good that I'm kind of terrified to add any 3D animation, because
right.
I think it's going to stand out like a sore thumb. And I think the practical, there are people that have seen parts of the movie where they've seen like a practical robot, and they'll say, "Man, the CGI on that is really good," and I'll be like, "Really?"
They probably don't think there's any other way to do it.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah,
Today's
yeah,
day,
right.
right.
Uh-huh.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I'm looking forward to seeing. Are you going to be going to? What's your plans when it's finished?
Loosely film festivals, and
Okay.
then and see where it goes from there. But it's funny because the industry is changing so quick, and it's especially changed from when I put my first movie out that went straight to DVD.
Which is Conjure,
That's
right?
already a Conjure, and that's already so funny to straight to DVD. Just
Right.
already sounds like prehistoric now.
Right.
But
Straight to Netflix.
yeah, like straight to Netflix or whatever, and
Which is a
Hulu.
good place to be.
Yeah.
Nowadays,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But 2 years from now, I mean, who knew how quickly Blockbuster was just going to whoosh and vanish, right?
Yeah, right.
So, 2 years from now, when this comes out, we could be nudging each other and saying, "Remember Netflix?"
Exactly.
I mean,
Things
yeah.
change so
Things- yeah.
quickly.
Oh yeah, like
You're
Netflix
right.
called me and I said no. Because you've got so many distribution platforms available.
Yeah.
I mean, self-distribution is, as long as you get the content online, anybody
Yeah.
can find
And
it.
it's funny because there's and that's what I'm kind of wondering in the back of my head, and I don't want to even think about it probably until we finish the movie. But what good would it be to sign with a company that says, "Hey, we can get it on Netflix, we can get it on Hulu, iTunes, Amazon"? And I'm thinking about it, and it's like, well, I know people at Netflix. Anyone can put their stuff on iTunes. Anyone can get stuff on Amazon. Like, why would I even have a middleman?
Right.
Other than
Yeah.
maybe some extra money with advertising and stuff.
Yeah.
But otherwise, there's not really a whole lot they
Yeah.
can do.
That you can't
so
do
I don't know.
yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, you put a trailer on YouTube, and then you can feed it from Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and drive traffic to it and get exposure that way.
And now you're a special guest on the J. Craig.
Right.
So,
right.
dude,
And I'm
Yes.
hoping you guys will
sky's
have
the
me back.
limit.
I mean, you've got an international audience right here.
Awesome.
There's a lot of people in
Yeah.
Indonesia who I bet are very interested.
Yeah,
in this
in
right
Russia
now.
too.
Excellent.
So
Russia, yeah.
That's good.
That's it.
That's good.
we should probably make a note about the contest. American, U.S. based,
U.S. based applicants.
U.S. based
only.
applicants
Yeah.
only. So for the contest,
Unless you want to pay.
folks,
Well, we can always go to DHL. Why not?
there's always that.
We can
Okay,
always
so
do
maybe
DHL.
scratch that idea. Okay, so all right, I need to ask you a question.
Yeah.
What's your favorite toy that you have that you've bought now that you can buy?
My
what you
favorite
want?
toy now, or that I had when I was a kid?
Now.
Oh,
Your great up big boy toy.
Boy, that's probably.
I just see it.
I mean, just to be, my honest answer would probably just be my iPhone.
Okay. Right on.
I mean, think about it. When you were a kid, if you knew that you would one day have this
Mhm.
and all that it can do,
right.
and that you could say, "Hey Siri, what's the temperature in Arizona right now?" Or just something. I mean, that would blow your mind.
Right,
I
okay.
mean, it's like a Buck Rogers toy.
It is. It
Yeah.
It's
absolutely
like,
is.
this is
Yeah.
beyond.
Yeah.
I mean, this is way.
Right,
this
the
is
whole
more than
Skyping
what they had
aspect
in
and
Zing.
FaceTiming is
Yeah.
like so it's Star Trek.
Yeah.
Right? You get the
I
communicator,
mean, the
right?
equation, the what I always say is that when you like the James Bond films always lived and died. Well, not lived and died, but a big part of that was always the gadgets.
Mm-hmm.
And if you watch the last, let's say 3 to 4 James Bond films, the gadgets aren't as front and center because what else is he going to come up with?
Right.
Invisible car, yeah, whatever. There's nothing like the phone, the communication, the radio,
Right.
none of that. That's all old hat now.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
it's,
It is old
it's
hat,
not as if
yeah.
what is he going to what's he going to do? Have a special flying suit that goes way into the realm of science fiction?
Right.
Like there's just not that much more unless you go into the future and start creating things.
Yep.
You know?
That's
That's why I
right.
like Minority Report, because the tech in Minority Report was based on these think tanks of scientists that got together. And if you look at that, we're still moving in that direction. Like, recognizing you by your retina and advertising to you by your retina and all those different things is, I mean, we're in the future. Crazy.
Totally are.
It's interesting to me, and this there's not a lot that makes me feel like an old man, but this does, and that is that when I grew up, science fiction, movies like Star Wars had that used universe look. So everything looked like it was functional. Everything looked like it had a purpose and was just really mechanical and such. But the way things have gone, things have just streamlined so much. And so you would think, like, again, something like this, and I've got my case on it, which on purpose kind of looks a little sci-fi. But when you but when you really look at what an iPhone is, it's flat.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have like buttons to push or
Right.
anything like that.
Yeah, right.
So
Crazy.
so realistically, I thought it was. Did you guys see Interstellar?
Yeah.
Yes.
So the robot in that I thought was a pretty realistic idea of what a futuristic robot would look like. That's just like this
just a
flat
smooth
slab,
surface, yeah.
a smooth surface, and then it can kind of do its own
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Which I thought that was cool. But the reality is, the sci-fi of the future now is really boring, because what are things gonna look like in the future?
Right.
Everything is going to be smooth and like there's no cool gadgets, there's no cool buttons, there's no cool hydraulic, robots with it. Because
Right.
why would you need all that?
Why would you
Yeah.
have
all
all
the
these
bells and
gas
whistles?
fuel powered machines
Yeah,
doing
you wouldn't-
anything?
all
And you
the-
can have
all the
glasses on or
mechanics
something
and
where
stuff.
everything's in your eye. So like, it's all
Yeah.
right there, right? Yeah.
It's all like the future of this is just like, I'm going to send you an email. Okay, you got it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah, they're experimenting.
Let me take a
now.
picture.
They're experimenting now with mind reading and sharing thoughts and so on. And they want to get there. I mean, what they want, obviously what they want to do is take the functionality of this and get rid of it. And it's integrated to you somehow, whether you're wearing it or
Right.
it's in your ear or whatever it is. I mean, that's the future.
Yeah.
So that's cool, but the bad news is, if you're a filmmaker,
Yeah,
that's
what do you
boring.
do?
Yeah.
It
Because
totally is.
there's
yeah.
nothing to look at. Everything
Right.
is so smooth and perfect. Like, anyone can make a sci-fi movie in their living room, because you don't need robots. You don't need start. Everything is going to
Yeah,
be
you just need white walls.
yeah.
And
Right.
somebody put their like you just did that,
Yeah.
send me a thought. That's what it comes down to. You're right, gone are the days of the watching people push buttons and watching grids on screens as they navigate, and all that stuff is
Yeah, they don't even need a camera.
it's
The
all
future
gone.
will just be able to take a picture with your
Right.
eyes, right?
Well, that was one of the smartest. If you look at all the smart things that Lucas did, was a long time ago
Right.
in a galaxy far.
You're right.
Because
that
he had the
was so
forethought
smart.
to think,
right.
okay, well, I can't say it's 2100 because who knows what it's going to be, and then my movie would get dated.
Right.
I say a long time ago, and
Yeah.
then it's timeless.
Right.
Yeah.
So very smart.
So I would have said, like, if I was wondering about your life-size Darth Vader.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That sounds so awesome.
No, that's my one thing that I there's not a lot that I collect, but my one guilty pleasure is life-sized Star Wars statues.
You have more
I've
than
got,
one?
Oh yeah,
Oh.
I've got probably 20, close to 20. So I've got the Han Solo in carbonite. That was actually what
Nice.
started the whole thing.
That's a great first one to have. That would be. Is it on the wall or is it?
It's
like
not on
just,
the wall at the moment, but
Okay.
it will be. I'm in the process of kind of turning it into. Well, it's not going to be secret anymore now that I'm saying it. But
Uh-oh.
it was going to be like a secret
bleep that out.
sliding thing that.
Oh.
it's
Kinda like in the
closet
movie.
behind it.
Yeah. In the movie, didn't they slide?
No,
he was
I
on
think it
display.
just
the curtain.
Yeah,
he was
Pull
on
the curtain
display,
up
that's
and
right.
point it over to him. Yeah, he was just in the background over there.
Right,
That's cool.
right.
That's awesome. I would totally have it
Yeah.
on the wall. That's so awesome.
So 20, that would be. I can't even name 20 Star
You got to have
Wars
Boba
Yeah.
Fett.
Yeah, Boba Fett,
Vader, Han.
IG-88.
Oh, nice.
It's a nice
I
one.
have an Anakin Skywalker, Darth Maul.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of them are just like the props that they've either had at movie theaters, or there's like Pepsi display things
Okay.
or whatever. Trying to think what some of the other ones I have. Yoda. I have a battle droid.
Okay.
And then I have
R2D2?
my I do R2D2
You
and
gotta have
C3PO.
C3PO. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Gotta have the class. If you're a droid guy. You just said you're
Yeah.
separate, right? You
Oh,
gotta
yeah.
have those two.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Robots for sure.
That's awesome.
Do you
I
have
don't
any
have,
other?
I don't
Since,
have a Twiggy yet though.
Nice.
well,
Now on the radar.
since you're into robots, do you have any other life-size replicas of other like Robbie the Robot, anything like
no,
that?
I don't have
or-
any of those guys. I have for robots. I think it's just R2 and 3PO. I
Okay.
think is all I have.
Nice.
But I'll have the robots from Aladdin 3477.
Of course.
And hopefully,
nice.
in the future, those will be the ones that people will be like, "This is the actual Fidgy from the movie."
Yeah. That's
They'll
awesome.
be coming to your house for the tour.
Mhm.
This is where we shot this.
Right.
And this became the entranceway to the palace.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
awesome.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
that's great. I collect
Congratulations,
the
man. Good for
Thank
you.
you.
Nice to see. I always go see somebody following through on their dreams.
right,
Doing it. It's great.
and the fact that you got to work with Lucasfilm or still
Mhm.
working
Oh,
with
yeah.
Lucasfilm, that's awesome, man. That's
Yeah.
very cool.
Thank you.
What I don't want to ask about next. We'll get that in a minute. I always ask these questions when we have guests. We've only had 3, but take away Star Wars.
Mhm.
What's your favorite movie?
My favorite movie is a movie called Amélie. It's a French
Yeah,
movie.
I know it.
It's a great movie.
Fantastic movie.
It's I think it's the greatest movie ever made.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good choice. I like that. Okay, favorite filmmaker.
Oh boy.
Ooh, tough one.
I don't know, but right now I don't think this would be my favorite, but I'm really obsessed with Edgar Wright.
Okay.
And his editing.
Mm-hmm. His
And
editing
I'm
is
really like I've never seen a Fast and Furious movie. Those movies don't look like they interest me at all. He's got this new movie out,
Baby Driver.
coming out called Baby Driver, and like I can't wait to see this movie.
right because of him. If
Well,
it
we
wasn't
just
Edgar
mentioned
Wright,
it's
you would have no
It's-
interest in that
it's
movie.
The story. It's the
Yeah,
storytelling.
absolutely.
It's the way.
It's
yeah.
to gravitate towards who we mentioned it last night. If his name wasn't on the movie, I wouldn't go see it.
Well, it wasn't just the name; it's just the trailer alone.
Mm-hmm.
Like you see a Fast and Furious trailer, and I'm just like, whatever.
Right.
But the trailer for Baby Driver, it looks like a riot. I
Right.
mean, that really looks. It looks like fun.
And it's his style, like the way he can communicate so much in such little time, visually and through editing.
Right.
His montages, it's almost an insult to call them montages. The way he breaks through time real quick, like in Hot Fuzz.
Mm-hmm.
Hot Fuzz at the beginning, where it shows his day-to-day conundrum that he's in. Like that's pure Edgar Wright right there.
Yeah.
Like he tells you exactly where this guy's position is in life, how bored he is, why he's bored of it, and then gets you right into the story.
I think we all got kind of robbed by not having his Ant-Man.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you can see some of him, and we've talked about this
You can see
before,
a little
Craig.
bit of that
You can
movie,
see some of
yeah.
him in the movie, like especially the montage, because it's totally Edgar Wright style. But I think we really lost out on an opportunity to have a really fun film. And it was still a fun movie, but if he was in charge of that movie completely and actually had what he wanted, I think that would have been awesome to watch, because he's a talented filmmaker.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's
Okay.
a really, really sharp guy.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see him. He's like, I'll back off and go do my own thing.
Exactly.
Not get
yeah.
caught up in the Marvel machine,
Right.
so to speak.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, good for him. You know, he has. There's a lot of people who have walked away from hot properties because they didn't have the right fit, right? It just didn't work with them, and they wanted to have a different thing. But you got that big runaway train going, and they're not going to let you derail it because you want to have your stamp
Yeah,
on
you've
it.
got to
right?
respect these filmmakers that come into these. They're the hot thing of the moment, or they're obviously massively creatively talented. They come into these big properties, and it just doesn't work out. You've got Darren Aronofsky. We never got his Batman movie.
Oh,
We
was
never
that year
got,
one?
Huh?
It was supposed to be year
yeah,
one.
Batman year one.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and then Edgar Wright with Ant-Man, and
Awesome.
we could go on and on about they bring in these very talented filmmakers, and it's like, it just doesn't work.
Right.
Like too many mandates, too many
Right.
parameters to work, and the guy's like, I don't want to make that movie.
Right. And then if they walk away, you kind of, that's, good for you. At least you know what you want, and you're not just going to do it for a paycheck. You want to have your stamp on it. So you got to give those guys props for sticking with,
Right.
their true calling, if
Stick
you will.
to their guns.
Yeah. Let's do our second contest question.
Very nice.
Want to do yours, or want to do Matt's got a question too? So which one do you want to do?
Oh, he does. What's the next prize?
Ooh, let's go with the next prize. Number
2. That would be this one here. So this is this prize pack has 15 posters.
Nice.
So I'll talk about this has all of the prizes that were in the first one, but this also has a Darth Vader art print. It's from Japan, and it's got all like Japanese kanji on it. This has a piece in here called Encounter on Panna Prime, which is the first appearance of Boba Fett from the Star Wars Holiday Special.
All right.
But it's painted realistic, so it looks like it's live action.
Jason, you can't participate in the contest.
There's also a German Yoda art print in here. There's my latest Star Wars art print that was just released at the Star Wars Celebration called 40 Years of Cosmic Collectibles. So it's all different toys and merchandise that Lucasfilm has had over the last 40 years for Star Wars. There is also a full-size Aladdin 3477 teaser poster, plus all the stuff that was in the first prize pack.
Oh wow,
Right on.
That's number 2. That's an awesome try.
I think we should go with Matt's question then.
And
that's a
well,
pretty,
he's got
pretty valuable.
Either way,
gift there. Yeah.
And then number 1 was Matt's question, and this is the biggest one. So let's let that one for Matt's question.
Oh, obviously we're moving towards number 1.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Well, go ahead and shoot the
Okay.
audience.
So again,
Question number 2.
Question
for the
number
audience.
2 for the contest.
Yes.
When we're podcasting via Skype, what is the greatest disturbance that we constantly get on Craig's side? What is the greatest disturbance that we get on Craig's side in Costa Rica? And if you're listening to the podcast, you always hear him come by. What is it?
And it's not a disturbance in the force.
It's not a disturbance in
not.
the force. Okay. That's the second question. Again, at the thejaycraig.podcast@gmail.com. Email it. Make sure you give us your name, your address. Obviously, if we win, we'll contact you and find out how to get it to you. Mm-hmm. And that's the second question. So the first question was Jason's firstborn son. Second question is the greatest disturbance that we get on Craig's side in Costa Rica during our Skype podcast.
Isn't Jurassic Park in Costa Rica?
They shot part of it in Costa Rica.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, in like the books and stuff.
Oh, in the
doesn't it
books.
take
Oh, yeah,
place?
it takes
Oh,
place.
is it really?
Yeah, like
that
when,
right?
when he meets when Newman meets the suit from the corporation.
Yep.
It says San Jose, Costa Rica, but it's obviously like at the beach. Nowhere San Jose's inland.
Okay.
But it's a nice little flavor to it.
Is
there.
that a
Yeah.
hint for the biggest disturbance that, in Costa Rica?
No, not really.
No.
Okay.
No,
No, it
there's something that happens throughout every podcast that
It's just part of living in Latin America.
Yeah.
That's just something you deal with.
and something that
Yeah.
we always keep in, and we always commented on it. So those who have been listening should know that answer.
Yes, you should.
That's right.
Yes.
Okay. So Craig, where are we at now? Do you want to do?
Where are we?
Ooh.
Yes, Jason.
Ooh. Any good stories about George Lucas you'd like to share with us?
Gosh, I've probably the best story that I have. Here's the funny thing. So I've been in the same room as him probably 6 different times, but every time this happens, I'm instructed not to approach Mr. Lucas unless he approaches me, and I can't say anything to him unless he says something to me directly first.
Okay.
So, he's purchased nearly 400 of my drawings and paintings over the years personally.
Mhm.
So I have in my contract, anything I do something for Star Wars, whether it's a book cover or anything like that, there's a clause in the contract that he gets first right of refusal. So before I sell anything or give anything to anyone else, I have to offer it to him. He usually buys it. If he doesn't buy it, then I'm free to sell it. If I wanted to put it on eBay or sell it at a show or whatever. So so I know he knows who I am, and I know what his favorite piece of mine is and everything. But every time I'm in the same vicinity as him, there's even been times where he has they've opened the show doors up early so he can come through without fans and everything.
Right.
Where he'll be at my booth looking at my artwork, and I'm waiting for him to say something like, "George, thank you for buying all my stuff," but I can't say anything to him. So he'll look at my artwork and he'll just be like, but he won't say anything, and I'm like, "Oh, just say
they've
something."
got this
so we
system
can-"
worked out.
Right.
He knows the system. Yeah.
So here's the funny thing. So my wife is also an artist who does stuff for Lucasfilm, and her booth was right next to mine, and she knew she wasn't supposed to say anything, but he's looking at my stuff, so he goes to her booth, looks at her stuff, and she didn't realize he was there, and I was trying to motion, like, "Look behind you," but she was pulling stuff out of boxes. She turns around, she sees George, and she goes, "Oh, hi, George," and she just starts talking to him. So my wife has had conversations, or
Did they take her away?
with
Whatever,
me.
grab her by the
they
shoulders?
didn't. No, they were fine with it, and because
handlers
he was
run out.
talking back, he wasn't. He wasn't.
But you can't even say hello. You can't even say,
Yeah.
"Hi, George."
And it's not his rule. It's his. It's
The
his
handlers, yeah.
people, and
Yeah.
they try to keep him on task and
Yeah.
everything. So
Because I'm sure you can ask him a question, all of a sudden it just explodes into a
if you two
huge
break into
topic
a
of
conversation, the whole day gets thrown off.
Well,
Right.
I mean, can you imagine at Lucasfilm? I mean, he would constantly have people coming up to him going, "Hey, you know that one part in The Empire Strikes Back when
Right.
C-3PO?" He'd be like, "Oh my
Oh,
gosh,
not
he would
again."
never get any- right.
He'd never get anywhere. Yeah.
Sure.
The moment he walked into work. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I was watching the prequels last night.
Yeah, can you tell me something? No. So when you first met him, though, like that first time he walked in, being the fan you are of Star Wars, how did it feel to see him for the first time?
That was pretty epic.
Get all nervous and butterflies.
No, not well. A little bit more. Again, because I'm not supposed to say anything. It's more like it's more nervous. Like if he does say anything, what do I say? Because I know I'll only have a little bit of his time, and what can I say that hasn't been said a million times before? Like, oh, you're such an inspiration.
Right.
Is there anything clever? But it
I
also
love Star
has
Wars.
to be right. So my biggest worry is like
Get him out of here.
I'll just blank and I'll be like, I like turtles. That's probably what'll come out of my mouth.
I know that clip.
Right.
I like turtles.
So, yeah, I don't know.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, it probably has more to do with the fact that you're restrained in the sense that there's no personal interaction going on. So it's
Right, just waiting.
It's
like,
akin to
please
being
talk
in
to me.
line with the president coming by. Don't look him in the eye. Don't say anything to him.
Right.
Don't do that. Yeah, there's a lot of.
I can feel that. I mean, I can't imagine what I would feel like if I was at Harrison Ford in his presence. Like, what would I say? If you had the opportunity to talk to him instead of being in that strict confines, like you maybe see him in a bar or something. Like, what do you say? You can't go up there and say, I think your Han Solo's awesome, or I love Indiana Jones, or which one do you like better, Han Solo or
With
Indy?
all of it, I imagine you're probably like in a meeting.
Oh,
with
yeah.
all these
Oh, yeah.
people
Totally
around,
different.
So it's
Totally
not-
different.
It isn't
Right.
like you walk in an office and like, oh, hey, George, what's going on?
Right. He's got
That's
a big entourage of people steering him around and stuff. So
Keeping
It's so
him on
funny that
task,
he
yeah.
became what he was fighting against. And I know he said that before in one of his
Yeah.
He's even said it,
documentaries.
He's even said it.
I became what I was fighting against. And that's pretty ironic.
I mean, he had that little
He
George
created
chuckle
something so
through
big. That's
Very
great.
interesting guy. I mean, there's a lot of people who I think backlash against him for what he's done, but who else has accomplished that?
oh yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the thing about Star Wars, and we can talk about it forever, but but the one thing to me that always blows my mind isn't just the movies, but when people say Star Wars, unlike pretty much any other property out there, it means something different to everyone. To a lot of people, it means the movies, but to some people, to a kid today, when you say Star Wars, they might think Star Wars Legos.
Right.
There's people that cosplay. There's
Right.
so many
Yeah,
different things
yeah.
about it, and I think you've got things that people debate. That there are classes in college about the Force.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? So
Right.
It's
it's
a
just-
religion, right?
it's
There
so-
are
yeah,
lightsaber
religion or
schools.
just a philosophy
There's
and
lightsaber
stuff. Oh,
training
yeah.
schools that I want to get my kids into.
Yeah,
Right? I almost gave his name away.
it's crazy. It's crazy.
So you almost got there, Jay.
So it's so amazing. And this all came from George, and he just recycled stuff that was already there and
Yeah.
just shook it up and put it out in this new thing called
And it
Star
just
Wars.
hit, and then obviously the toys back then was a huge
Oh,
thing that
yeah.
really got that. I think if it wasn't for the toys, it was something different would have happened because
yeah.
those
It
toys
might
gave
not have
people
lived.
something. Because
Yeah.
the people who are listening, they might not know what it was like back in the day, where you got a chance to see the movie, unless you went back to it, you weren't going to see it again for a very long time.
Right.
A very long time. So I remember not understanding. I had this mental image of Han Solo with a lightsaber, with a parka on. I'm like, for years, I'm like, what the heck? How's that possible? What does that mean? Until you finally see it on VHS years later, I was like, oh.
Right.
But it's those fleeting moments, right, where we don't. Nowadays, you have it all right there. You can go on YouTube when you
Right.
get home. You can go look at pictures. It's all readily available
very
for you.
accessible.
Back then, those toys kept you actively wanting Star Wars for those 3 years.
Well, what was the
You couldn't
release
wait.
window between Force Awakens and the DVD? 5 months,
Oh,
6
yeah,
months,
3 months.
maybe.
I think really. I mean, they come out quickly now.
I think it was actually still in the cinema when it came out on DVD. Possibly,
very,
I don't
very
know for
possibly.
sure.
Right.
What was your opinion of Force Awakens?
I loved it. There's a lot of things I could nitpick about the story and stuff, but overall, I was so happy to see that J.J. Abrams brought magic back. And I think, again, with the prequels, because there was no sense of urgency, just the fact that you took the saga and moved forward
Right,
was
yeah.
you didn't know going in. Well, I knew going in, but most people didn't know going in. That movie could have began with Luke Skywalker, and he could have died in the first 5 minutes, and you wouldn't have known. So
Yeah.
I think that sense of urgency is it's, in my opinion, the right way to go with Star Wars. And I think JJ just brought some of the magic back.
Yeah.
Which was great.
He did a brilliant job of, almost recycling one of the, A New Hope in a way what that did, though, was bring us back into Star Wars. Maybe some people who are faltering because of the prequels, what have you. It brought them back to that sense of adventure, that sense of, what Star Wars did, but also introduced all these new characters that brought the new audiences back into the younger kids. And I think it was a genius idea to bridge that gap between the older, generation, which is what we are. We're the older generation now.
It was a really good strategy. I mean, it really was a way to, because it gave someone like you a familiar ground to link into.
Right.
And then introduced all the new characters and let you get caught up in that.
Exactly.
But then if for someone like your children, it was a whole new experience.
Exactly.
No matter how you look at it.
Yeah. And I was very, very happy, and I can't wait to see what they do with Ryan Johnson's version of.
Ryan Johnson! God, I can't wait to see this movie.
I know.
He's such a good filmmaker.
Craig is no trailer. He's going spoiler free.
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't watched it.
I'm very proud of him. I'm hoping he can do. Now I was trying to do Blade Runner that way, but unfortunately we just saw Alien Covenant, and of course the new trailer for that was on. I was like, I don't want to watch it.
Right.
But I don't know why you're bothering trying to hide your eyes. Like, I mean, the music came in.
I know, and then I stopped.
And then you just, all right.
As soon as the music came on, I was like, okay, here we go.
What did you think of what little you saw?
That looks amazing.
Doesn't it?
It looks and sounds like Blade Runner, and I can't wait to see what that movie looks like.
In the same way that you talk about Edgar Wright as being someone you'll watch anything of his right now, I'm the same way with Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah, me too.
He's an amazing filmmaker, and everything in it has very strong ideas. There's a lot of strong themes throughout his work, and I haven't seen anything of his that I haven't liked.
Yeah, he's
a
smart filmmaker.
The guy's on a roll.
Super big role
for sure.
Yeah. Okay,
Did you like Arrival? Did you see Arrival?
Oh yeah, loved it.
It's a fantastic movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Everything he touches. So I haven't seen his earlier ones because they hit a little too close to home with like the child abduction
Prisoners
thing, and I just can't. I can't do that. Right. It just I'll have nightmares about that, or prevent me from letting my children do anything.
Right.
But when it comes to Arrival, and then I'm having a brain fart. What he do right before Sicario. I mean, he's super.
Did you
talented.
see? It's got two names. One, his name's Spider, and it's also called The Double. With Jake Gyllenhaal. Have you seen that?
No.
That's probably his furthest out there movie. Like,
I thought it was called Enemy.
Oh yeah, it's called Enemy. Thank you.
Okay. No, I haven't seen. I know about it, but I didn't see that one either. But he's talented as hell,
That's
man.
good.
I can't wait to see what he
Very
can do
good.
with Blade Runner. It's got it's kind of terrifying when you bring that property back into play. You're like, please don't ruin Blade Runner.
Well, in 1 year, and this year we have a new Alien film, a new Blade Runner film, and a new Star Wars film.
Yeah.
All things we grew up on, which is it's interesting. I never, 20 years ago, if you said, hey,
these are all going to come back.
If you get into the industry, you'll be able to work on all your old favorite stuff.
Oh, can you imagine? Yeah, the guys who are working, these younger guys who are out there doing that. Can you imagine that? Like they're able to work on the things that they grew up with. Much like you're working with Star Wars, and you grew up with it, and that's
I never would have imagined.
That's awesome. That's very cool. So I'm gonna go back to Star Wars again for a second because that's what I do.
Sure.
We can't get through a podcast.
I
without
can't,
talking
and
about Star Wars.
it's a running joke. I just always bring it up. Your favorite out of now 8 movies?
Yes.
What's your favorite Star Wars movie?
The Empire Strikes Back. I know that's the answer everyone says.
Yeah,
that's all right.
It has to be. It's either that or New Hope. I know some people who say Jedi. They're not my friends anymore, but but Empire's the one, and it's funny because I didn't like it as much as a kid because I was 4. I didn't understand it as much. I didn't have, and plus I only saw it the one time in the theater, and then later on what's on I think HBO when I finally saw it again.
Okay.
But it had such much more deeper themes, and it was a little slower pace. After the Hoth battle, it got slow for a young kid, and I didn't follow it as much. But when it came out on VHS, I was in high school, so we're talking early 90s that they got released on VHS.
Right.
VHS people, not even DVD. We're old, and
Wearing out your tape.
Right, wearing out the tape. But I was like, all of a sudden, I became like in love with the movie because I was old enough to understand the themes and where it was going, and I was like, oh my God, this stuff on Dagobah is amazing now, and all the stuff with Han and Leia while they're just, just escaping was so powerful, and it's so much better of a movie.
When filmmakers call out a movie movies like this and like this, they don't say, well, it's like Star Wars or it's like The Matrix, or it's like they always say, well, it's very much like The Empire Strikes Back. Like
especially
lot
the second
of
movie.
filmmakers
Especially
call
a
out.
second movie is always
That's
compared.
That's the bar to
Exactly.
sequels to measure by.
And be careful comparing your movie to that film because it's a high mark to hit.
It is, and that's why a lot of sequels will say it's The Empire Strikes Back of that. It's like, really?
Is it really? I never think that, buddy. So seeing as you're both it meant Star Wars fans.
Oh, and we are.
You're involved in the industry. Jason's a very diehard fan on his own.
Nerd.
I think maybe it's time for a little quiz. Is who knows the most Star Wars lore and who knows the most about Star Wars?
I think Matt's gonna kick my butt.
Got
Let's
a
do
little
it.
quiz here. But let's see.
We have a quiz.
We got a quiz.
Surprise quiz.
I got to put the old man glasses on for this. Let me see. All right.
Quiz time.
Are we
Star
supposed to
Wars-
raise our hand as soon as we know?
Star Wars.
Just blurt it out, I think.
So, let's see. I've got 10 questions here.
Okay.
All right. So, first person to get the answer, again, just say it.
Okay.
All right. And we'll just see where this goes. This is
I'm
Star Wars trivia moment.
me
You
tally
may
them
have
up
to
here.
write some things down.
Okay.
All right. Order these battles of the Star Wars universe. Meaning, I'm gonna name off some battles in the Star Wars universe. You have to put them in the correct order.
Jeez,
Okay.
that's complicated. Okay.
Okay.
I know the answer.
Sure you do.
Start rifling off all the battles in order.
And if I butcher some of these names, folks, just gotta give me a break. I'm not as deep into it.
He's not as big of a nerd
Okay.
as I am.
So,
Or you.
the subjugation of Geonosis,
Okay.
Okay.
the Battle of Yavin, the occupation of Bespin, the liberation of Ryloth, and the Sith Civil War.
So that's interesting because I don't know what the hell Ryloth is.
Yeah, that's the one I'm drawing a blank. Unless that's
I'll give you a couple clues because I know these are
That one
obscure.
throws me, but otherwise I have 'em.
Okay, so the liberation of Ryloth is out of Star Wars: The Clone Wars.
I was gonna say. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Well
So
then,
you want to hear them again?
Geonosis.
So the subjugation of Geonosis,
Right. That's first.
The one from
the
Revenge of
Battle
the
of
Sith,
Yavin.
or Battle of Yavin is third. The second one is the Sith one that you mentioned, which I can't remember what you said.
No, it would be Ryloth would be the next one.
Okay, hold on. I need what?
So the
what-
first
okay,
one
go.
is Geonosis. That would be the first one that happened.
Okay,
Then it would be Ryloth.
all right.
Then it would be the Sith Civil War.
Yeah.
Then Yavin. Then
And
Bespin.
Bespin.
I'm sorry, you're not right. That is incorrect.
Really? Oh, all right.
So it must be then this.
Let's hear it.
I'm gonna
Let's
come
hear
in
it.
like it's like Family Feud. I'm gonna
hear
come
it.
in with the save. So it's Geonosis, it's Ryloth, Civil War, Yavin, Bespin.
That's what I said.
I
Yeah,
think-
you more or less just repeated.
I
it.
thought he
Yeah.
did Civil War first, then Ryloth.
So it's
No.
so
So it's
it's
Civil
the
War
Sith
first.
Civil War, liberation of Ryloth, subjugation of Geonosis, the Battle of Yavin, and then the occupation of Bespin.
So we both failed.
You know what? It was that we got thrown off with the
Ryloth.
subjugation of Geonosis must be something from Star Wars Rebels or something
might
like
be.
that. Yeah.
So the liberation of Ryloth is Star Wars: The Clone Wars. Subjugation of Geonosis is after Revenge of the Sith.
Right.
Battle
Oh
of Yavin.
yeah, so he threw us. That's a
Battle of
he threw us for a
Yavin
loop.
is A New Hope. Occupation of Bespin is Empire Strikes Back.
Okay,
fail.
epic fail in the
Alright.
first one. What the hell? What else you got for us now?
Oh, no.
That is going to be easy. Apparently, he does some
Grand Moff
research.
Tarkin's middle name. Moff.
Hold on. Let me. I don't like
Name's
this
Paul
one.
Parkin. Oh, okay.
here's
Number one.
another,
Let's see if we can get this one right.
Hold on a second here. Okay. Before Decipher Incorporated lost the license to print Star Wars cards in 2001, they released a card revealing we'd actually seen a scruffy-looking nerf herder, a guy who herded nerfs, on screen. What was the character's name?
Han Solo.
Gosh, I remember the Decipher cards, but I don't remember that or the story to that.
He's from Return of the
Epic
Jedi.
fail.
Crickets. Can you incorporate crickets, Steve?
Okay, it's Rennick in Return of the Jedi.
Who the heck is Rennick?
I'll show you a picture of him. He's
Danny Glover?
sure looks like him, huh?
It's a young Danny Glover. Okay, that is Phil on a second level, so we are 0 for 0.
Oh, no. I'm trying to
Jeez.
get through the more not so obscure ones here. Okay, that stuff I can't even pronounce.
He thought we were really big
Yeah.
fans. Apparently, we
Oh,
don't
this
know
is-
our Star Wars. It's kind of embarrassing. Can we edit this out?
So, all right, next question.
Okay, one we hope that you can get.
Name all the planets
Oh dear God.
Master Yoda sets foot on in the 6 canonical films.
Oh my dear Lord. Okay, give me a second. In all 6 movies, Coruscant, Kashyyyk, Dagobah. In the 6 movies, that's all I can.
You're on your way there.
Oh,
Think back to the first question.
there's a Geonosis.
Yup. Geonosis. That should be it. There should be 4.
You just got 5.
Is there a...
Oh no, you got 4. I'm sorry.
Is there 5?
Looking for the 5th one.
Okay, there's 5th one.
I thought there was 6.
In the 6 movies.
Oh,
in the
gotcha.
6
Yeah.
movies, yeah.
What about... It's not Alderaan, but is it like a moon of Alderaan?
That's where I would not know, but I don't think so.
I only have 4. I can't get a 5th. Craig, you're killing us here.
All right, the correct answer we're looking for is Camino. Dagobah, Coruscant, Camino, Geonosis.
He does
and
go to
Kashyyyk.
Camino. They don't
Oh,
show
we
him
don't
go there.
show it, but he
They
says
don't.
he's
That's a
going
trick
there.
question. Good golly, Miss Molly.
I
Matt,
assume he went there, yeah. Epic fail.
I thought we were
Yeah.
gonna
I
do
thought
all right
so,
on
too.
this. That's
Oh wait, I think you can get this one. Hold on. I think you
hope
get
so.
this one. All right.
God, you're making us look bad.
Next
man.
question. This character used to smuggle guns before opening a diner on Coruscant, and is partially named after George Lucas's son,
Dax Jetster. Dex Jetster. Whatever the heck his name is.
Dexter Jester.
Dexter Jetster. It's kind of getting it right.
Dex.
You got there.
Good old
I said it
Dex.
first. Whew. I'm winning. Barely. Next.
Oh, I've got to see. No, that's another. All right. How many crystals were in Darth Maul's 2-bladed lightsaber in The Phantom Menace under the Legends rules, and how many would be in it by current Disney canon?
Oh my goodness.
That's
I'm gonna say 1 and 2.
No.
Should be. It was 1
I'm
and
going
a
to
2.
say 2 and 6.
You're halfway there.
4 and 12.
You were on the right path, Jake. 4 and 6.
4 and 6 is the answer.
4 and 6 is the answer. Yeah.
Dude, where did you find these questions? I'm embarrassed.
Okay, I'm going to ask one.
The one I got right, I didn't even say his name
I'm
right.
so embarrassed.
I'm only going to ask one more.
God.
All right. Do you guys read the Marvel comics at all, Star Wars?
I have in the
Not the
past.
new ones.
Not
Okay.
recently.
Then I'll skip this question. What lies below the Jedi Temple on Coruscant?
Sith Temple.
Ding! Right on.
Okay, we need a tiebreaker.
Uh-huh,
You got one more
okay.
question.
All right. Good.
I was gonna say something else. I got that
Ladies
one
and
wrong.
gentlemen, we're tied.
We are tied. We finally
1 to
got one
1.
score apiece. Okay. Tiebreaker.
That's another list.
What's the color of Leia's underwear?
How many dewbacks, pink by the way, how many dewbacks are in the original 1977 theatrical cut of Star Wars? How many were added for the most current edition?
So 2-part question. I'm gonna say
3 and 2.
I'm gonna say 2. I'm gonna say 1 and 3.
You're wrong. How about you, Matt?
He said
I said 3, and then 2 more were added for the...
so 3 and 5.
Yes.
Okay.
And the correct answer is 2 originally, 5 were added. So a total of 7.
So
That includes the one at Mos Eisley?
See, 2 originally, 5 were added, so 7 total dewbacks appear in the Blu-ray edition. A stormtrooper rides one searching for the missing escape pod from Leia's Corellian cruiser.
right.
Looks, there are droids. The special edition added 4
There's
dewbacks
only one
and
that
spruced
one.
up the original, making a total of 5 in the scene. one outside the Mos Eisley Cantina, where the troopers arrived, forcing R2-D2 to flee, blah, 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 making a total of 2 at Mos Eisley.
This was a really bad idea.
Hey, hold on now.
Okay, one more. It's embarrassing.
Come on now. Hold on. Everything's all right.
So what were your thoughts on Rogue One?
I really enjoyed it. I really, really enjoyed it because, we talked about how we all knew what was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But I liked the characters that they installed. I liked seeing that little bit of what we wanted to see that we've always heard about.
Mm-hmm.
That moment is really cool. So that last hour was just for me, an epic ride of an awesome battle, followed by some really good characters.
I think it's the greatest space battle in a
It was
Star
so
Wars
cool,
film.
and I really enjoyed it.
great.
I
really loved
Vader
it.
coming out,
From a
seeing
visual
him.
standpoint, for sure. Maybe not
wreck
an emotion.
everything.
I mean, the emotional stakes in the first Star Wars are much higher with
Sure.
Luke. But from a visual orientation and execution, I love that battle.
I really enjoyed it.
I got the last question.
I think you liked Force Awakens more.
Oh, yeah. Force Awakens I liked a lot more.
Okay.
I didn't hate Rogue One, but on my list of Star Wars movies, it's on the bottom.
Is that right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, he didn't want to go backwards. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So is that kind of the same way you feel about maybe the Han Solo movie?
I don't when you tell me that they're making a young Han Solo movie, I'm not thrilled about the idea. That doesn't mean that I don't think the movie could be amazing. It could be amazing. The fact that it's the Lego guys that are directing
it
it,
gives that little
that's
bit of-
cool.
That makes it
That's-
interesting.
That
Yeah,
makes
yeah.
it really interesting. I'm sure it's going to be fun. I think for me, it isn't just that they went backwards, and it isn't just that I knew they were going to get the plans. I thought the story itself was just not. It just wasn't that great. I thought there was a lot of weirdness. Like the whole first half of the movie is about getting to Saw Gerrera, and then when they get to him, it's like, oh, I'm tired of running, and then it's like, wow, we didn't really need that first half of the movie. Did we?
Right, we
That
just
pretty
stop
much
right here.
echoes my sentiments
Yeah.
when we
Oh,
first
that's
talked
just-
about it. Was
yeah.
is that the midpoint really throws off the? It's like their goal changes, but yeah, he's like, oh, he's the most important link, and then he just goes away.
And
Right.
There's
That's
no
true.
reason for it. I loved K2SO, and I loved Chirrut. All the other characters I thought were just weak and bland and literally expendable. But even Chirrut, who when we first meet him, he has that awesome scene with the staff and fighting the stormtroopers. I remember seeing that and going, man, this guy is going to be amazing. We
Yes.
are in for some fun with him.
Right.
And then that was it.
It never happened again.
And
That's
that,
why-
he used his little gun, his little
Yeah.
rocket, whatever he had there.
Yeah, it was so much more interesting when he did
Yeah,
that.
Wouldn't it have
yeah.
been far more interesting if he would have, when he did that walk to the panel, if he'd have been doing that fight,
Taking out
taking
Yeah.
people
stormtroopers,
out, it would have been
right.
far more
Oh, yeah.
interesting than
That's
just
true.
him walking there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a good point.
There's
yeah.
a lot of like really strong thematic things that just got missed. I know. Yeah.
Right. Do you have your last question?
Are you sure?
Yeah, we need to
All
break this tie.
Okay. Last question. Last question. Early story drafts for what would become The Empire Strikes Back would have changed this character into the first clone we saw in the Star Wars films. Who was it?
Rephrase or say the question
Okay,
again?
so early story drafts for what would become The Empire Strikes Back
Uh-huh.
would have changed this character who exists in the Star Wars universe into the first clone introduced into the Star Wars films. Which character was it?
I'm going to guess Darth Vader.
He's introduced in Empire Strikes Back.
Boba Fett.
No.
That's the easy answer.
He's introduced in Empire Strikes Back.
Yoda.
No.
Lando.
There you go.
Really?
Lando Calrissian.
God. Just gonna rip this apart. Okay.
I was trying to scroll through it for something that I was like, well, maybe even.
Okay.
even if
We're just
I
going to
knew it.
agree that we sucked at that.
Yeah.
We got a tie though.
Well, here I was. See, I was thinking. I was like, well, I've got to get away from things that I would know
Right.
because I'm a casual fan.
So you're trying to go
So
deeper into the.
I was trying to go a little deeper.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And that sure
Okay.
wasn't
So
such a good idea.
let's get off Star Wars for a second, and I want to ask you about your Hollywood is Dead.
Yeah.
What was the genesis of?
That what happened with that? Ironically enough, I know you want to get away from Star Wars, but it was actually Lucasfilm that contacted me.
Okay.
All right.
And they said, "Hey, we want you to do." They had this book that was coming out that was a horror Star Wars book novel called Death Troopers. And so they contacted me and they wanted me to do something with zombies and Star Wars. And I said, how about a Star Wars, like reimagining a Star Wars movie poster, make it zombified? And they said, great. So I started doing my research, and like all the Star Wars movie posters were like prime candidates. So I asked if I could do 6, and they were like, yeah, even better. So I was like, great. So that became the genesis, and then it exploded. I was on like Late Night with Jimmy Fallon and G4 TV and all this stuff. So my inbox just exploded with, when are we going to see zombie Indiana Jones and zombie E.T. and stuff.
Right.
So for me, I'm just a casual zombie fan. Like I enjoy The Walking Dead and some zombie movies, but I'm not like a huge zombie guy. For me, I love movie posters. I love classic movie posters, the stuff I grew up with.
Right.
Back before the internet, again, we had the newspaper where I would look at like just the beautiful painted posters for these movies coming out and stuff.
Yeah.
So for me, this was a chance to study the great masters, a lot of their movie posters that they designed, and then of course it's fun to just rip everything apart and pull people's eyeballs out and make it all zombified and stuff. But it's 6 years worth of of zombified movie posters, and it all got collected into a giant book.
It's a good-looking book.
So where can people purchase the book?
You can get this at hollywoodisdead.com, and there's dashes in between the Hollywood dash is dash dead.
Right.
.com.
Okay. We can put that in the write-up too.
Yep, that's Hollywood is Dead, authored by Matt Busch.
That's really cool. So now that you have about a year or so, maybe a year and a half, you said you're going to be finishing. What's next for Matt Busch?
Gosh, I don't know. Probably a really nice vacation.
Oh, very cool.
Is what I'm excited about. And definitely not giving up my day job. My first love is illustration. So looking forward to continuing with that.
Right.
Star Wars, that'll always make me feel like a kid working on that. So I love that. And the when you're in the middle of a big project like this Aladdin thing, the last thing I want to do is another movie,
Right.
But I'm sure
after 4 years or now
I'm
5
sure
years,
2
whatever.
weeks after Aladdin, I'll be like, okay,
What's
let's
next?
do another one.
What's the next? Now that I've learned everything that I can learn on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else can I do? Yeah,
Do you
why not?
remember turning us down for our zombie movie?
No, I don't actually.
We created a zombie script.
Okay.
Post-apocalyptic world, and we were doing. We were going to decide to maybe do a comic book out of it.
Got you.
And we and you obviously could not do the work at that point.
You had written something.
Yeah,
you wanted
yeah.
to- Gotcha.
Yeah. I thought I'd throw that at you.
Yeah.
He's a busy man.
Oh, I know it. That's what he said. He's like, I can't take any new work.
Yeah,
You don't know what I'm doing. I got so much going on.
Right.
That's awesome. Very cool. I have another question for you.
Yeah.
Tell me about passion.
Oh yeah. All right.
Go in the Wayback Machine. Come on.
Sure.
Yeah.
So when I was, this actually ties into, I think, what my career is today, and that is when I was in junior high school and high school, I was in a band, and I played the keyboards and a little bit of guitar and stuff. And Steve Caldwell was the guitar player over here.
Right.
And it was such a great time of my life. It took me from the nerdy kid that was into Star Wars. And here's the thing that a lot of young people don't realize. Now it's cool to like Star Wars. It's cool to go and to watch like the Marvel movies and to get into what comic book characters these people came from and everything.
Yeah.
Right.
That was not cool when we were. I mean, it was cool.
Yeah, it wasn't cool to
us
go to
when we were.
Right.
It wasn't cool to go to a
we were
Comic-Con.
geeks.
Yeah, we were geeks. We were nerds, and this is
Mm-hmm.
not something you would tout in front of the ladies or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
and older
yeah.
kids would pick on you for being so
Right.
geeky and stuff. So so kind of the transition from being this nerdy kid into, I was like super shy and stuff. So being in this this band, it was like a glam rock band. We'd play like Van Halen, Bon Jovi, stuff like that. And but that was my transition into I don't want to just say being a man, but having personality, having the confidence to talk to girls and stuff like that. You know, so it was something that even though I grew up like drawing comic books and stuff, I really kind of transitioned into music for a while, and that was like my big thing. And then the band broke up, which was really, really sad, you know, in college.
Was Steve too demanding?
No, it was, I don't know, it was just, you know what, it was a rough time because we were, at the time, we were really doing the hair band thing.
Right.
And this is kind of the transition where, like, grunge was just starting to come in.
Okay, right.
And the area that we lived in Sterling Heights, we were kind of the only cats with long hair. Because everything else was rap, and there was a big...
Also, NWA was kind of coming in, wasn't it?
NWA,
Yeah,
all that
mid-90s,
stuff was
90s.
really big. And where we lived in particular, we just lived in a really... our area was predominantly Middle Eastern, so there was just it was just a different... We were the only ones with long hair.
Right.
And so we were... it was kind of an upward battle, and there was just a lot of... It was just a really, really weird time for music. So... I kind of just went back into my other artistic pursuits, but the thing that I think was the secret to my success was when we were in this band, we did all the guerrilla techniques of, we would make flyers. We would go to Meijer's, you know, which is, if people don't know, it's like a grocery store basically. And we would hang up, like, who's going to go to a grocery store and see a flyer for a rock band that's playing?
Passion.
Oh, Passion. I got to go see these guys, you know. But we would do it anyway, because anything, if we put out 100 and it meant one more person or two more people were going to go,
Absolutely.
The numbers
it
game.
was worth it, right?
Yeah.
So, so it was that kind of mentality of not just building customers, but building fans. And you read a lot about this, not like everyone talks about this now, there's books about it, but it was something that I kind of discovered early on, is moving into the art world, no one was doing that. No one was treating their brand like they were in a band trying to get fans. And so that was kind of the secret to my success, was trying to build more of a name for myself, and putting, it was kind of awkward because no one likes to, I don't know, I was making t-shirts with my name on it and like hats with my name on it and stuff, so it was really weird. There's such a fine line between having an ego and then just being smart about things and branding yourself, you know. So there was like a little bit of a weird gray line there, but it worked great for me. And so I really attribute these years with Steve, just these awesome rock band years.
That's awesome.
We were just in our own little bubble, you know, our small little corner of the universe. But that definitely had such an impact on me. And
That's awesome.
How many years did you have the band?
Well, we had a bunch of different bands that were roughly the same people from
Okay.
junior high all the way into college.
Right.
Oh, right on. Cool.
So what you're
Nice
saying
rite of
is,
passage
if you
there.
want to be successful in life, start off with a hair band.
Start off with a hair band and those, you know, those old school techniques, you know, and stuff. It was funny because I when I moved out to LA, ironically, one of the bands that we always played a lot of their songs was this band called Poison.
Yep.
And
Familiar.
so somehow the drummer of that band, Ricky Rocket, started a comic book company that I started to work for. And
Oh, no
then
kidding.
Ricky, when I lived out in LA, he was like my best friend out there, and I was like at his house every day working on these comic books and
How
stuff.
about that?
So we toured with comic conventions, you know, with this comic
that's
and everything.
awesome.
So I got to know him really well, and I got to know the other guys and stuff too. But I would always ask him about what the secret was of Poison's success, because they're from the Midwest too. They're from Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
And one of the things that always struck me that I thought was really fascinating is when they were playing, you know, the Hollywood Sunset Strip and all that stuff. He said the reason they had more fans than any other band is all the other bands were trying so hard to be these really big rock stars. So they would pay people to set up their show, their roadies and stuff, and then they would go, they would play the gig, and they wouldn't even walk in until right before, you know, they started to play the show. They'd have the lights and everything. As soon as the show was done, they would leave because they wanted to make it look like they were unattainable. They were untouchable.
Attain the mystique.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but Ricky would always tell me when they would play their shows, the first thing they would do is just go right out into the audience and just grab a drink with everyone, and they would treat everyone like they were a cousin or something.
Wow,
like
that's
that.
smart.
And
That's how
they-
you get a following.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it
For
was,
sure.
and they really made it. They wanted everyone to feel like they were your best friend and stuff, and that's what everyone wanted to go to the show, because it wasn't just seeing a band; it was like seeing a friend of yours.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
And I
great.
always thought that was great, and so I always kind of I also took that with me. You know, when I do shows and stuff, I really try to make everyone feel, you know, like a friend and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and not just. I've never been one of those people that just like signs books and doesn't even look at the person I'm signing them for and stuff.
Right.
And
I think when you
So
do
there
that,
won't be
you
any time
hate
soon where
doing
you
that.
say, "Look, if they don't talk to me,
right,
I'm not
Yeah,
going to
I
talk to
won't
them."
be- yeah,
Yeah.
I'll fire my manager that puts that into play.
That's
Oh,
awesome.
right on, man. Well, I think it's time for our last.
Yeah, let's do our last one.
question.
This is our last. Whoa,
Oh,
my
cool.
goodness! This is the big one, guys.
Ooh, yeah.
All right, so this is prize pack number 1, and I'll just go. This has all the stuff that the first 2 packs have, but real quick, this has a Night of the Living Dead art print. This also has a print for the Beatles. It's a print that I did for a book called The White Album. This has a Hulk print that I did for Marvel Comics. This has the biggest seller on HollywoodIsDead.com is a movie poster. It's spoofing Breakfast at Tiffany's, but this one's called Breakfast is Tiffany. This has the 25th anniversary of, or is this the 30th anniversary? It's the 30th anniversary of Star Wars A New Hope. It's all the villains on a poster. There's a Clone Wars poster on here. There's a Style D one-sheet movie poster for Star Wars Revenge of the Sith. There's a German Indiana Jones poster for Raiders of the Lost Ark. There's a Lost poster based on that TV show. And then last but not least, there is a there is an Indiana Jones world map. It's all the different...
Oh, I saw that on your Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah, there's
That's
all
cool.
the different artifacts that he found in the movies, TV shows, comic books, novels, Disney theme parks, and video games.
That's awesome.
No.
That's
All in
very
one
cool.
book.
Let me just preface this before. When you write in on your email, you reference which question you're answering.
1, 2,
So
or 3.
put in so question 1, question 2, or question 3. Question 1 is about Jay and his son. Question 2 is about Craig's disturbance, and question 3 will be Matt's.
Okay.
So just
Matt.
so you're not all writing into
Exactly.
the same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So 1, 2, or 3. We're on number 3. Matt, what is your question?
My question is, on the planet that huts are native to, what is the capital of that planet?
Ooh. Okay. So say it again.
What is the capital of the planet that huts are native to?
Okay, so that is our third and final for the grand prize. We have obviously Craig just said we have the 3 questions. Reference what question to the jaycraig.podcast@gmail.com. Reference 1, 2, or 3. 1 winner per question, or I should say one. How do I put this?
One prize per question.
1 prize per person. Right? You're not going to get all 3.
Yes, you can send in all 3, but you're
Right.
not gonna get all 3.
Yeah, once you win
Separate,
one, your
yeah.
name's off the list. The
Exactly.
next person's going to get that question. So we have the first question, which was my question about my son. Second question about Craig and his disturbance. And then the capital of where the huts are from. Okay. So, and again, folks, that's the jaycraig.podcast@gmail.com. Matt, tell the audience and all our fine listeners where they can find you and some information about you as far as
Awesome.
the old internet.
Cool. Well, you can find out more about me at mattbusch.com, and that's MattBusch. That's spelled like the beer, not like the shrub. And then also Aladdin3477.com. Aladdin is 2 Ds, 3477.com. That's where the movie's at, but you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all the usual suspects. I'm
Very
not
cool.
hard to find. So
Nice. Yeah, just
find
type
me
you in.
there.
I'm sure they're going to come up and find you.
Take a look at his artwork.
That's
We've got a
awesome. And
few,
remember,
books to buy.
Hollywood-is-dead.com.
That's right.
Check that out. And Matt, this has been great, man. Thank you so much for coming
Awesome.
on to the show.
Cool.
Appreciate
Yeah,
having
appreciate
you.
it. Good
Yeah,
for-
thank
you, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. And it's
Yeah,
great,
excellent. Look forward
great
to
to
seeing the
finally
movie.
meet you.
Awesome.
'Cause I grew up in the same neighborhood as Steve,
Awesome. Okay.
right down the street
So did
in
I.
in that same area,
You li-
Castle
in-
Court.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
crazy.
Isn't that nuts?
That is.
It's a
All
small
comes
world, isn't it?
full circle. Yes, it does. Small world here in Michigan.
Yeah.
So, folks, of course, you know where to find us at. You're watching us now. You're listening to us now, thejaycraig.com. We have Facebook. We're on YouTube. If you're not watching
SoundCloud.
us, please watch us now because when we're in our studio, this looks better than ever and sounds better than ever than our Skyping session. So please watch us on YouTube. Fire away on those questions. We got some awesome stuff to give away here, folks. Don't forget, we're also going to get some T-shirts. Hope that doesn't throw you off, but you're going to get some T-shirts, too.
Tell your friends.
And tell your friends. And keep watching us and keep listening.